Chapter 33:11. From now on, you are Qin Feiyang's shadow guards. Work hard. One day, I hope to see your reputation even greater than when you were in the Blood Hall. It would be best if everyone trembles when they hear your name. Qin Feiyang looked at the group of people and said indifferently, "Isn't that simple? A massacre will naturally make them tremble in fear." One of the shadow guards smiled coldly. "Massacre?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, looked at the shadow guard and asked, "You think this is very impressive, don't you?" The shadow guard was slightly stunned. Looking at Qin Feiyang's appearance, he realized that his words had aroused Qin Feiyang's dissatisfaction. He hurriedly shook his head and said, No, young master, please listen to this subordinate's explanation." "What's not?" "I think you are," Qin Feiyang coldly shouted. He glanced at all the shadow guards and said, "I don't care what you were like when you were in the Blood Hall, but now that you are with me, you have to follow my rules." The group of people silently lowered their heads, trembling in fear. "Now I will set 3 iron rules for you. First, you are not allowed to kill the innocent. Second, you are not allowed to bully others. Third, you are not allowed to betray your companions. Remember, this is an iron rule, and also my bottom line. If anyone dares to violate it, don't blame me for being merciless." Qin Feiyang paused after every word, his words carrying a bone-piercing killing intent. "Yes." The group of people hurriedly responded. They did not dare to doubt Qin Feiyang's words. He could even kill the Shadow Guard commander without hesitation, let alone them. "Actually, what I said was to make our enemies tremble in fear, not ordinary people. I believe you have all heard of this saying. Water can carry a boat, but it can also capsize it. It is the same for ordinary people. So, we have to treat them well." Qin Feiyang taught them with good intentions, and his tone softened a lot. These people used to be the Blood Hall's secret guards. They were vicious and merciless, and would stop at nothing. If he didn't kill them, they would definitely bring him a lot of trouble in the future. What he needed was help, not a heartless executioner. Therefore, he had to warn them in advance. Otherwise, when trouble came, it would be too late to remedy it. "We will remember." 55 shadow guards bowed and replied. Qin Feiyang nodded in satisfaction. He looked at the second floor and said with a smile, "Dan Wangkai, come out again and help them open the doors of potential in the first 3 floors. "The first 3 floors? Hearing this, the group of shadow guards became restless. Why was it only the first 3 levels? Aren't you going to open all of them? Dan Wangkai walked out and looked at the noisy hall. He snorted coldly and said, "How can it be so easy to unlock all the doors of potential? This will depend on your performance in the future." "I see." When the group of secret guards heard that, they could not help heaving a sigh of relief. They were really shocked. They thought that Qin Feiyang would not care about them after they were controlled. It turned out that he wanted to see their performance. Performance? They must perform well in the future, and strive to unlock all the doors of potential as soon as possible. Dan Wangkai took out the potential elixir. With the help of the ancient castle, the group of people successfully opened the doors of potential in the first 3 floors. The group of shadow guards also slowly realized that although Dan Wangkai's cultivation was not high, his position in the Black Tortoise world was not ordinary. Look, the potential elixir was so important, but Qin Feiyang actually let him take care of it. This kind of trust had already surpassed the trust of a friend. "If you need any elixirs in the future, come find me." After saying that, Dan Wangkai returned to the cultivation room without looking back. Several shadow guards glanced at Dan Wangkai's cultivation room and asked, "Young master, is he in charge of all the elixirs here?" Qin Feiyang nodded. Everyone looked at each other. It seemed like they really had to curry favor with this person in the future. "Come out with me." Qin Feiyang turned around and walked out of the ancient castle. A group of shadow guards followed him out. When they saw the endless medicinal fields around them, they could not help but feel shocked. How many medicinal herbs were there? And they were all aged. Take those trees of fortune for example. When Qin Feiyang planted them here, the tallest one was only 12 meters tall, and the smallest was only 1.5 meters tall. But now every single one of them had grown into a towering tree. They were like giant peaks, looking extremely magnificent. Pai Lupi Qin Feiyang spoke. Soon, Pai Lupi flew through the air and landed in front of Qin Feiyang, bowing. Greetings, Lord. Now that they are on our side, arrange a place for them to stay. Qin Feiyang smiled. Okay. Pai Lupi nodded, then looked at the group of shadow guards and smiled. Everyone, let me introduce myself. I am Pai Lupi, the butler of the Black Tortoise world. Greetings, brotherly. The group of shadow guards was also very polite. Just the word butler was not light. Pai Lupi and Theta Wong were indeed the butlers of the Black Tortoise world now, because they were handling some of the affairs. Fire Lotus had also completely let go and was wholeheartedly focused on cultivation. Follow me. Pai Lupi smiled, then turned and walked in the direction of the tea garden. Wait. Qin Feiyang suddenly called out to Pai Lupi. After pondering for a while, he looked at Pai Lupi and said, let them stay next to Xia Yuan and the others. Qin Feiyang then looked at the group of shadow guards and smiled. When you are free, communicate with Xia Yuan and the others more and help them comprehend the profound laws. Xia Yuan? The group of shadow guards was stunned and asked suspiciously, who are they? Ask Pai Lupi, he will tell you. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Let's go. Pai Lupi looked at the group of shadow guards and smiled, then continued to lead the way. The group of shadow guards hurriedly followed. Let me tell you, in this place, you must not rely on your strength to look down on others. Every person and every beast here is a companion who has followed the Lord Ruler through life and death to reach this day. Look at this courtyard, this is the Lord Ruler's residence. The Lord Ruler's wife is currently living here. The owners of the two courtyards next to it are the Lord Ruler's two ancestors. Look over there, that is the madman's residence, and the person living there is the madman's fiancé. In short, those who can live in the Devil's Land are not outsiders. Of course. Now that the Lord Ruler has allowed you to stay in the Devil's Land, he no longer treats you as outsiders. So you must cherish it. Pai Lupi led the way while introducing the Devil's Land. The Devil's Land? The environment here is so good. Why is it called the Devil's Land? Everyone looked at each other. I'm not sure either. When I came here, it was already like this. However, I heard that this place used to be a forbidden land with a fierce reputation. Later, under Miss Fire Lotus's transformation, it slowly became a cultivation holy land, a paradise. Pai Lupi said. So it's like that, then who is Miss Fire Lotus? Everyone suddenly understood. She is the Lord Ruler's younger sister, and Elder Hu's personal disciple. Pai Lupi smiled proudly, and at the same time he had a respectful expression. He and Theta Wong being where they were today had nothing to do with Qin Feiyang. It was Fire Lotus who had cultivated them. Therefore, no matter how the Black Tortoise world changed, Fire Lotus would always be their benefactor. Elder Hu's personal disciple. The group of shadow guards was shocked. Who didn't know what kind of person Elder Hu was? He had status and strength, and he could be said to be highly respected in the Demon Palace. Yet, he had taken a fancy to her, and accepted her as his personal disciple. It seemed that Qin Feiyang's younger sister was not an ordinary person. 2 days later, Theta Wong finally returned and reported to Qin Feiyang. That's quite fast. Qin Feiyang was a little surprised. He thought that it would take at least 10 days to half a month to complete. I will definitely do my best to complete the task you gave me. Why don't you go take a look at the Soul Ceiling Valley? That scene, that smell, it's simply hell on earth. Theta Wong asked. Cough cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and shook his head. I'll pass. I'm already so old, and I can't stand the torment. Theta Wong was stunned, and her face was filled with speechlessness. You're already so old? If you don't dare to go, just say it. What's with the excuses? Qin Feiyang smiled. Go find Xingda now, and then bring all those people to the Soul Ceiling Valley. Let them experience the highest etiquette of the Black Tortoise world, to our distinguished guests. The highest etiquette. Theta Wong was stunned, and the corner of her mouth could not help but twitch. The current Soul Ceiling Valley, let alone humans, even ferocious beasts did not dare to step into it. Because it was too smelly. It could be said that now that the Soul Ceiling Valley and the Desert of Death were placed together, Everyone would rather die in the other forbidden zones than suffer in the soul-sealing valley. As expected, when Theta Wang rushed to the western region, and together with Xingda, brought Pei Wanli and the others to the sky above the soul-sealing valley, the group instantly turned pale with fright. The entire soul-sealing valley had become a huge cesspool at this moment. What are you doing? Don't throw me down. I'd rather die than go in. Please, just give us a quick death. Young people like Pei Wanli were roaring hysterically. This is not up to you. Xingda held his breath and slapped out. Immediately, the group of people fell down one after another, accompanied by screams. Angry roars and curses also resounded. So pitiful. Theta Wang also covered her nose, shook her head, and laughed gloatingly. Xingda's mouth twitched. Was this called pitiful? No. This was a living torment. He might as well die a quick death. This white-eyed wolf was really vicious. He could even come up with such a ruthless idea. It seemed that it was better to keep a distance from the white-eyed wolf. Otherwise, one day, if they were not careful, they would be beaten black and blue. It was also on this day. Somewhere in the western region, a terrifying aura erupted. The owner of this aura was the white-eyed wolf. Obviously, it had successfully merged and stepped into the Dominator realm. Time stop, time reversal. Ultimate profound. Instant time. One word awesome. Two words still awesome. The white-eyed wolf smiled excitedly and took a step forward. His entire body seemed to have merged into the long river of time and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 33:12. Little Qinzi, it's time to work. Qin Feiyang was pondering the law of force in the ancient castle when the white-eyed wolf's voice suddenly sounded from outside. He's out? He was slightly stunned, then got up and walked out of the ancient castle. He looked at the high-spirited white-eyed wolf in the sky and asked, "Did you succeed?" Of course. The white-eyed wolf waved his paw, and a wave of the law of time appeared. Qin Feiyang immediately entered a state of stillness. Then he waved his paw again, and the state of stillness disappeared. Qin Feiyang also looked at the white-eyed wolf enviously. Of course, he was no stranger to time stillness. He had used it many times in the ancient castle. Every time he saw it, he would be envious. However, he had comprehended so many laws, but he had not comprehended the law of time. It was a pity. Don't be envious. You can't be envious. The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. Although he looked like he deserved a beating, there was nothing he could do. This bastard indeed had the right to be proud. He asked curiously, "What's the supreme mystery of the law of time?" "Instant time. You'll know later. Now take me to Jinyuan City." The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed coldly. Jinyuan City? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and asked suspiciously, "Why are we going to Jinyuan City?" "Those two hidden guards embarrassed me in public last time. Of course, I can't just let them go." The white-eyed wolf sneered. Qin Feiyang was stunned. This guy was quite vengeful. But then again, wasn't it the nature of wolves to be vengeful? "Hurry up. I'll let you see the power of the instant time." The white-eyed wolf grinned. Qin Feiyang's eyes suddenly had a trace of expectation. The white-eyed wolf looked at the ancient castle again and shouted, "Little lunatic, come out too. I'll take you to have fun." Crazy walked out slowly and said, "You monster, don't talk to me." Look, look, look. Another envious and jealous person. The white-eyed wolf was even more pleased with himself. Who envies you? Reaping without sowing will only be despised by others. Madman said sourly. Fine, 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 you're full of disdain. The white-eyed wolf was in a good mood and was too lazy to bicker with Madman. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Let's go, I can't wait any longer." Maybe the others have already left Jinyuan City. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Even if they left, there must be other secret guards guarding them. As long as it's a shadow guard, it's fine. I can't take this lying down. I must vent it out. The white-eyed wolf snorted. All right. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and shook their heads helplessly. Then, the two of them and the wolf left the Black Tortoise world and appeared in Wang Dafu's cultivation room. Although 2 days had passed in the Black Tortoise world, only a short while had passed in the outside world. Looking at the floor full of wine, Qin Feiyang asked. Did the two of you drink all the divine wine here? Don't make a fuss. It's only a dozen jars. You don't say. His private wine cellar really does have a lot of good wine. The white-eyed wolf looked at the wine cellar with shining eyes. With one look, it was obvious that he wanted to take it for himself. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and called Snowflake out. Then, a space-time tunnel appeared. The two of them and the wolf quickly rushed in. Jinyuan City. The city lord was killed. Now the vice city lord of Jinyuan City was in charge. He led everyone and rebuilt Jinyuan City in full swing. In the sky, two black-robed men stood side by side and looked at the people below coldly. They were the two secret guards who fought with the white-eyed wolf. Why do you think the palace lord suddenly called the sixth deacon back? One of them asked. I don't know. But it's not hard to guess. It must have something to do with Qin Feiyang and the others. These people caused a lot of trouble as soon as they came to the western mainland. They're simply a group of jinxes. The other person snorted. The death of the secret guard commander, and the capture of Pei Wanli, and the others were not spread. So no one in the western mainland knew about it except for the Blood Hall's big shots. Although they're a group of jinxes, they're quite capable. Capable? If that wolf didn't run fast enough, it would be a corpse now. It better not let me see it again. Otherwise, I'll pluck its fur. That secret guard sneered. Whoosh! However, before he could finish his words, the void in front of him suddenly distorted. Then a space-time tunnel appeared. The two secret guards immediately looked at the space-time tunnel with a trace of surprise in their eyes. Were they companions? However, at the next moment, their eyes darkened, and a monstrous murderous aura exuded from their bodies. You're still here. The white-eyed wolf walked out of the space-time tunnel, and looked at the two of them with a smile. Are you here to die again? The two secret guards sneered. A trace of mockery flashed in the white-eyed wolf's eyes. Did they think that it was still at the same cultivation level? Boom. Immediately, it released its aura, and the cultivation level of a beginner sovereign was revealed without any concealment. What? The two secret guards' pupils shrank. It had actually broken through to the beginner sovereign realm? It's Qin Feiyang. And that lunatic and that wolf king. This time, the two men and the wolf did not disguise themselves. Therefore, when the white-eyed wolf released its aura, it alarmed the people below. When they looked up, they immediately recognized it. They actually came to Jinyuan City so brazenly? Didn't they know that there were secret guards here? Didn't they know that the entire western mainland was looking for them? So this is why you're so confident. However, do you really think that breaking through to the beginner sovereign realm can wash away your humiliation? Naive. The two secret guards sneered and shouted. Everyone evacuate immediately. No need to go through so much trouble. Killing you is just a matter of waving my hand. The white-eyed wolf smiled contemptuously. Arrogant. The two secret guards were furious, and all kinds of profound laws roared out. The people below did not dare to stay any longer and frantically fled outside. Of course I'm arrogant. I just don't know why you're so arrogant. The white-eyed wolf sneered and waved its claws. The law of time rolled out, and the world instantly entered a state of stillness. What? Those who had fled far away all stopped and stared at the ingrate with their mouths agape. This is the law of time's profound law. Time stop. That's not right. It controls the strongest law. Isn't it the law of death? Why did it become the law of time? Could it be? In an instant, in everyone's mind, there was a thought that they were unwilling to believe even if they were beaten to death. This wolf king had mastered both the law of death and the law of time at the same time? Boom. High in the sky, accompanied by two loud noises, the two secret guards forcibly broke the stillness of time, and their faces were instantly filled with horror. Being in the situation, of course they knew that this was the law of time, and time stop was the fifth profound of the law of time. In other words, this wolf cub's breakthrough was because it comprehended the fifth profound of the law of time. It actually mastered two of the most powerful laws. This had never happened in the Sky Cloud realm. That's right. In the history of the Sky Cloud realm, there had never been a person who had mastered two supreme laws. Even the big shots of the 4 superforces had only mastered one supreme law. This wolf cub was too terrifying. You're surprised? Don't worry, there's more to come. The white-eyed wolf proudly took a step forward and immediately merged into the long river of time, disappearing from everyone's sight. It was as if it had suddenly evaporated from the world, leaving no trace behind. Not to mention the people of Jinyuan City. Even the 2 secret guards couldn't catch a trace of the white-eyed wolf's disappearance. It was simply so fast that it made one's hair stand on end. Moment of time? Could it be that this supreme profound is the same as an auxiliary divine technique, not increasing the white-eyed wolf's strength, but increasing its speed? Madman was surprised. That should be the case. Qin Feiyang nodded. How could the speed of the supreme profound be so fast? It was even faster than a supreme heaven-defying auxiliary divine technique. So what if it's powerful? In front of a sovereign weapon, it's all trash. Madman smiled disdainfully. Qin Feiyang was speechless. There didn't seem to be any point of comparison. It was still the same meaning, sour. Suddenly, the white-eyed wolf, who had disappeared, appeared behind the 2 secret guards. The power of death gushed out, and a dark red blood moon instantly appeared in the sky, attacking the 2 secret guards with lightning speed. The supreme profound of the law of death, dusk of the gods. The 2 secret guards were shocked. They quickly turned around and controlled their various profound divine techniques to attack the blood moon. With a loud bang, even if the 2 secret guards joined forces and used 8 types of 5th profound divine techniques, they couldn't stop the blood moon at this moment. The blood moon was like a hot knife through butter as it blasted toward the 2 secret guards. The 2 secret guards were like meteorites. Accompanied by painful screams, they smashed into the mountains below. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Ravines appeared everywhere as if a huge earthquake was happening. The people of Jinyuan City in the distance were dumbfounded. 2 sovereigns in the mastery realm joined forces, but they couldn't defeat a novice sovereign? This supreme profundity of an ultimate law was too terrifying, wasn't it? Whoosh! The 2 secret guards rushed out. Their bodies were covered in blood, but they didn't fight with the white-eyed wolf anymore. They used their legendary supportive divine techniques and fled without looking back. They escaped? Everyone was dumbfounded again. Even if they couldn't defeat the 2 secret guards, they shouldn't have run away. After all, their cultivation was here. What do you know? The 2 secret guards snorted coldly. What a bunch of ignorant, pitiful worms. The current situation was no longer a problem of cultivation. Even if they had supreme-grade heaven-defying divine artifacts, they could only be abused by 2 supreme profound meanings. Escape? The white-eyed wolf was stunned at first. Then disdain appeared in its eyes. It merged into the river of time again, and appeared in front of the 2 secret guards. So fast! This time, the people of Jinyuan City finally noticed this. Previously, when the white-eyed wolf activated momentary time, it didn't appear immediately. Therefore, everyone thought that it must be hiding in a spatial divine item. It might also be like Qin Feiyang, who had mastered a divine technique that could make it invisible. But now, it had just disappeared and appeared again immediately. Moreover, it appeared in front of the 2 secret guards. Its speed was naturally very obvious. Chapter 33:13. It's at the initial stage of the Dominator realm, but its current speed is even faster than a Great Perfection Dominator. Is this a Supreme Level Support Divine Technique? No. It's impossible for a Supreme Level Support Divine Technique to be so fast. Could it be that this is a Support Divine Technique that surpasses the Supreme Level? This astonishing scene made everyone feel that it was inconceivable to the extreme. Are you blind? How could this be a divine technique? Suddenly, a roar sounded. This was a black-robed man. He was about 1.8 meters tall, and his cultivation was at the Great Perfection Undead realm. Although he was nothing in the Sky Cloud realm, he was still considered to have some strength in a small place like Jinyuan City, and he was the Vice City Lord of Jinyuan City. Then what is this? Hearing the Vice City Lord's roar, everyone looked at him suspiciously. He has activated the Law of Time. This must be a profound divine ability of the Law of Time, the Vice City Lord said in a deep voice. Profound divine ability. Everyone's eyes trembled. Even time stop had no effect on the two shadow guards, but now Wolf King's speed was crushing them. Could it be? This was the supreme profound of the law of time. Their cultivation was too weak, and they didn't know much about the supreme profound of the various supreme laws, so they couldn't be sure. At the same time, seeing the white-eyed wolf catch up to them so quickly and block their path, the two shadow guards couldn't help but turn pale. The people of Jinyuan City didn't know, but as shadow guards, they knew clearly. This was the supreme profound. Their hearts were filled with disbelief. Not only did he grasp the supreme profound of the law of death, but he also grasped the supreme profound of the law of time. What was going on? This wolf cub had clearly just broken through to the initial stage of the Dominator realm, so how could he comprehend the supreme profound of the law of time? Although they didn't see the white-eyed wolf's breakthrough with their own eyes, the last time they fought, the white-eyed wolf was still a half-step Dominator. How long had it been? From the time Qin Feiyang and the others left Jinyuan City, went to Maple Valley, and then to the Death Glacier until now, it had only been half a month. In half a month, not only had it broken through to the initial stage of the Dominator realm, but it had also comprehended a new supreme profound. How was this possible? Even if it was the reincarnation of a supreme expert, it couldn't be so ridiculous. You think you can escape? The ingrate laughed in ridicule, and the supreme profundity of the laws of death was activated once more. The dark red crescent moon illuminated the sky, and the aura of death enveloped the surroundings, causing the heavens and the earth to seem as if it had transformed into a purgatory. No, the two shadow guards were extremely terrified. Too supreme profound of the law of time. Terrified, they could not help but kneel in the air and kowtow as they begged for mercy. Their hearts were filled with regret. Why did they still stay in Jinyuan City? She had even said that she would pluck its fur. So strong. Initial stage Dominator and advanced stage Dominator. That's a difference of two small realms. Yet they were killed just like that. This Qin Feiyang. Whether it's him, the people around him, or the dire beasts, they're all monsters. The people of Jinyuan City couldn't help but tremble. The deputy city lord originally wanted to send a message. Before the 6 deacons left, they had established a contract bridge to facilitate communication. However, at this moment, he was holding the divine sound transmission stone and didn't dare to wake it up. He stood there trembling. An unknown liquid even flowed out of his pants. The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. He looked at the people of Jinyuan City and shouted, "Help us tell the people of the Blood Hall that the show has begun. Don't be afraid." After saying that, he stepped in front of Qin Feiyang and Madman and said proudly, "How is it?" "Not good." Madman pouted. "Jealous. Continue to be jealous." The white-eyed wolf laughed loudly. "How shameless." Madman had a look of disdain. The white-eyed wolf's current attitude was exactly the same as a nouveau riche. Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf and felt bitter. He transmitted his voice. "Senior brother, you don't say. The two of us might not be its match." With two profound skills, not to mention initial stage dominators, even perfect stage dominators might not be able to stop the white-eyed wolf. "If we really fight to the death, I definitely won't lose to it." Madman snorted through his nose. "Not necessarily. Don't forget that it grasps 3 great divine abilities. Deprive battle soul, deprive cultivation, and deprive laws. Your strongest means are your battle soul and laws. If we really fight to the death, to be honest, your chances of winning aren't high. Don't deny it. I really feel helpless against it. Everyone says that the two of us are abnormal, but I think this damn wolf cub is the real abnormal." Qin Feiyang shook his head. When Madman heard this, he couldn't help but sigh helplessly. Although Qin Feiyang seemed to be boosting the morale of others, it seemed to be the truth. "Let's go." Qin Feiyang looked at Snow beside him. "Where to?" Snow was suspicious. "Maple Leaf Valley." Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. After Qin Feiyang and his group left, the people of Jinyuan City heaved a sigh of relief. Those monsters were finally gone. They would never come back again. Jinyuan City was too small to accommodate those monsters. "Sir, they have left," quickly informed the 6th deacon. A guard called out as he looked at the vice city lord, who was scared silly. Everyone noticed that the Vice City Lord was so frightened that he had peed his pants, but no one laughed at him. This was because many of them had also peed their pants. Blood Hall. A majestic palace was situated on the peak of a towering mountain. The hall was dazzling and magnificent. But at this moment, the atmosphere in the hall was extremely heavy. After receiving the secret guard's message, the 9 deacons immediately rushed back. Old Hai, who was rebuilding his physical body and divine soul, also immediately walked out of the cultivation room. At this moment, inside the hall, the Blood Hall Master sat at the top with his head lowered. He looked at the table with an extremely gloomy face. The 9 deacons and Old Hai sat on both sides of the table with a trace of suspicion in their eyes. This was because the Blood Hall Master had not told them about Pei Wanli and the others being captured. In a short while, accompanied by a series of hurried footsteps, a secret guard ran into the hall. "Where's the commander? Why isn't he here yet?" The Blood Hall Master looked up at the secret guard and said angrily, "Sir." The secret guard knelt on the ground with a plop. He lowered his head and said with a pale face, "Sir, I can't contact the commander." "What?" The Blood Hall Master suddenly stood up. Old Hai and the 9 deacons were also shocked. One of the deacons looked at the secret guard and said, "If you can contact us, why can't you contact the commander?" Exactly. It was exactly that secret guard who'd received orders to summon the other great figures back. His name was Wang Changyuan. His status in the Blood Hall wasn't low. He was the vice commander of the secret guard, and he possessed a cultivation at the perfection sovereign realm. Moreover, he'd comprehended the supreme profundity of an ordinary law, and he was always by the side of the Blood Hall Master. Wang Changyuan stuttered as if he didn't dare say anything. "Speak." The Blood Hall Master roared. Wang Changyuan's figure shook, and he roared, "When I sent the commander a message, I noticed that the bridge had vanished." "What? The bridge vanished?" All the great figures were surprised and bewildered. How could that be possible? I didn't dare believe it as well. So I asked many people before I came here. After they checked the divine transmission stone, they noticed that the commander's bridge had vanished as well. "Lords, didn't all of you establish a bridge with the commander as well? Why don't you check it yourselves?" Wang Changyuan gazed at the Blood Hall's master and the others as he spoke. Immediately, besides Old Hai, everyone else withdrew their divine transmission stones. Because Old Hai's divine transmission stone had been destroyed along with the explosion in Ocean of Cloud City. Presently he was in a soul state, so he hadn't used a new divine transmission stone. "How is it?" Old Hai gazed at the Blood Hall's master and the 9 deacons. However, all of them remained silent while their faces were extremely gloomy. Could it be? A terrifying thought instantly arose in Old Hai's heart. What exactly is going on? Why did his contract bridge disappear? The Blood Hall's master roared. When Qin Feiyang had sent a message to the Blood Hall's master, the Blood Hall's master hadn't seen the Dark Guard commander. So he didn't know that the Dark Guard commander had fallen into Qin Feiyang's hands. Even though it's very difficult to accept, we have to admit that the Dark Guard commander might have suffered misfortune. One of the deacons spoke. As soon as he finished speaking, he leaned weakly against his seat while pain filled his eyes. First it was the Grand Deacon. Now it was the Dark Guard commander. It wouldn't be a big deal if it was just an ordinary person, but both of them were pillars of support for the Blood Hall. The death of just one of them was a huge loss, yet now 2 had actually perished. Damn it. It's definitely Qin Feiyang. The Blood Hall's master suddenly slapped the table and roared, and the table instantly shattered. Qin Feiyang? Old Hai and the 9 deacons gazed at him with surprise and bewilderment. Yes. I asked Wang Changyuan to summon all of you here because I have bad news for all of you. The Blood Hall's master spoke in a low voice. Bad news? All of them exchanged glances, and then they gazed at the Blood Hall's master with surprise and bewilderment. The Blood Hall's master clenched his fists tightly and spoke word by word. Our families have fallen into Qin Feiyang's hands. What? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone here stood up successively. Wang Changyuan was shocked as well. Although he had been guarding outside the door, he didn't hear the conversation between the Blood Hall's master and Qin Feiyang at that time. After that, he asked the Blood Hall's master about it, but the Blood Hall's master didn't tell him. However, at that time, he guessed that something big must have happened. Otherwise, the Blood Hall's master wouldn't be so angry. What he didn't expect was that it was such a big deal. At that time, we decided to send our families out of the Blood Hall to prevent them from being implicated. Logically speaking, Qin Feiyang must have thought that they would be protected by us in the Blood Hall. However, what I didn't expect was that this damned little bastard didn't play by the rules. The Blood Hall's master roared angrily. He was so angry that he even wanted to kill someone. Chapter 33:14. He's a person who doesn't conform to common sense. We were too naive to expect him to act according to common sense. Old Hai was in extreme pain. All his children had fallen into the hands of Qin Feiyang. With Qin Feiyang's means, wouldn't his family line be cut off? The 9 deacons were also devastated. Who in the Sky Cloud realm didn't know what kind of character Qin Feiyang had? Now that he had fallen into his hands, how could he still survive? If they had known earlier, they wouldn't have made such an arrangement. Unfortunately, the hardest thing to buy in the world was knowing earlier. Phew. The Blood Hall master took a deep breath and returned to his seat. He looked at the big shots and said, "You don't have to worry for the time being. We've already come to this point. How can we not worry?" Old Hai roared. Normally, he would never dare to yell at the Blood Hall master like this, but now he couldn't care less. "I know what you're afraid of, but now, what you're worried about won't happen for the time being," the Blood Hall master said in a deep voice. "What do you mean?" A group of people looked at him suspiciously. The Blood Hall master said, "Qin Feiyang has given us his conditions." "What conditions?" one of the deacons asked. Without waiting for the Blood Hall master to speak, Old Hai said first, "No matter what the conditions are, we have to agree to them." "Calm down." The Blood Hall master glared at Old Hai and looked at the crowd. "This condition is the exchange of hostages." After hearing this, I believe there's no need for me to explain in detail. You all understand what he means. Old Hai and the 9 deacons fell silent. Of course they understood. Qin Feiyang obviously wanted to use their families to exchange for the Mermaid Emperor and the White Wing Emperor. "This is a good deal, right?" one of the deacons said. "It is." However, Qin Feiyang not only wants the Mermaid Emperor, the White Wing Emperor, and Yi Miao, but also the leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the 2 divine beasts. The Blood Hall master said. "What?" Old Hai and the 9 deacons were shocked. The Mermaid Emperor and the other 2 didn't care. Even if they were released with their strength, they wouldn't be able to make any waves. At most, they would lose these 3 bargaining chips. However, the Alliance Master and the 2 divine beasts were completely different. Especially the Alliance Master, the number 1 person in the law of space and time. His strength had already reached the peak of the Sky Cloud realm. If he were to release them, wouldn't that be the same as releasing a tiger back into the mountains? There's one more question. I wonder if you've thought about it? The enmity between us and Qin Feiyang has already been established, and it has even reached the point of no return. Even if we agree to exchange hostages with him now, do you think he will let us go? At that time, our situation will be even worse because we have no bargaining chips in our hands. He can attack us without any hesitation. The ancient castle, the slaughter region, and the support of the Devil Palace and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Even our Blood Hall can't handle such a force. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall sighed, deeply worried. Then what should we do? Everyone knows Qin Feiyang's methods. If we don't exchange hostages, he will definitely not show mercy. He can't just watch us die without descendants. The 6th deacon called out. The master of the Blood Hall fell silent. This time they were really in a dilemma. Old Hai pondered for a while, then looked up at the master of the Blood Hall and sighed. I wonder if you've noticed a problem? What problem? The master of the Blood Hall looked at him suspiciously. Old Hai said with melancholy, whether we have any bargaining chips in our hands or not, we can't fight Qin Feiyang now. The master of the Blood Hall fell silent again. Old Hai said, now we only have one choice, which is to ask the Ice Dragon for help. This matter started because of him. He can't just watch us die. Ask him for help? Then tell me who can get in touch with him. Besides, even if we can get in touch with him, will he help us? Back then, when he gave us the Heavenly Dragon Divine Sword and the Ice Dragon Holy Sword, we had already vowed that we would definitely help him get rid of Qin Feiyang. If we go to him now, he will only scold us for being incompetent. The Master of the Blood Hall sighed. Old Hai rubbed his forehead and said angrily, "If you ask me, you shouldn't have meddled in this matter in the first place. Then how did I know that an ant from the lower realm would be so difficult to deal with?" The Master of the Blood Hall said angrily. He thought that it was a simple matter, but he didn't expect it to become so complicated. "I say, can the two of you stop complaining? The most important thing is to think about how to solve the problem at hand." The 9 deacons looked at the two of them helplessly. At this time, they were still in the mood to quarrel. The two of them looked at each other and lowered their heads in silence for a long time. "Let's send a message to Qin Feiyang first. Even if we agree to exchange hostages, we have to confirm whether they're still alive first," Old Hai said in a deep voice. "That's right. If they give us corpses, won't we suffer a double loss?" The 9 deacons nodded. The Master of the Blood Hall looked at the 10 of them, then looked at Wang Changyuan and said, "Bring Yi Miao here." "Yes," Wang Changyuan replied respectfully, then turned and walked out of the hall quickly. "Why did you bring Yi Miao here?" Old Hai and the 9 deacons were puzzled. The Master of the Blood Hall said, "This is Qin Feiyang's order. If we contact him, we have to ask Yi Miao to send a message to Yueqing." "Ordered? What do you mean?" The 10 of them were puzzled. The Master of the Blood Hall said, "Qin Feiyang must have taken away everyone's transmission stones, so we can't contact them. That's why he asked us to contact Yueqing." "I see." The 10 of them nodded in realization. Buzz. However, at this moment, the 6th deacon's transmission stone rang. The 6th deacon took out the transmission stone suspiciously. After checking it, he was stunned. "Who is it?" Everyone looked at him in confusion. The 6th deacon said, "It's the Deputy City Lord of Jinyuan City." "The Deputy City Lord of Jinyuan City?" The Master of the Blood Hall and the others were stunned. Why would a small Deputy City Lord send a message to the 6th deacon? Wait. Back then, Qin Feiyang had appeared in Jinyuan City and fought with them. Could it be that they had appeared in Jinyuan City again? "Answer it," the Master of the Blood Hall urged. The 6th deacon nodded and activated the transmission stone. "Lord." When the Deputy City Lord saw the 6th deacon, he immediately looked as if he had seen a life-saving straw. The 6th deacon looked at the Deputy City Lord and frowned. "Look at your panicked appearance. Did something happen?" "Yes." The Deputy City Lord nodded and shouted, "Just now Qin Feiyang lunatic and Wolf King appeared in our Jinyuan City again. Where is he now?" As soon as he said this, the big shots all stood up. "He has already left. Moreover, they killed the 2 secret guards," the Deputy City Lord said. "Damn it." The 6th deacon clenched his hands. They had just returned from Jinyuan City, and now they had run to Jinyuan City to cause trouble. Wasn't this clearly taking advantage of his loophole? There's another strange thing. That Wolf King has broken through to the initial stage of the Dominator realm, the Deputy City Lord said, his face full of horror. Initial stage of the Dominator realm? The big shots were stunned. The 6th deacon looked at the Deputy City Lord and asked suspiciously, "What's so strange about this?" The Deputy City Lord said in a deep voice, "If it's just a cultivation breakthrough, it's definitely nothing. However, the second type of law that he has mastered is actually another supreme law." "Another supreme law?" The 6th deacon frowned. "That's right. It's the time law. And according to our guess, he has also mastered the supreme law of time," the Deputy City Lord said. "Impossible." The 6th deacon shook his head decisively. It was already unbelievable that he had mastered the supreme law of death. Now he had also mastered the supreme law of time? Wasn't this a joke? How could an initial stage Dominator realm master 2 supreme laws at once? Moreover, they were both supreme laws of the Dominator realm. "It's absolutely true." The Deputy City Lord recounted the battle between the White-Eyed Wolf and the 2 secret guards in detail. Hearing this, the Blood Hall Master pondered for a while and said, "That's right." This is the supreme law of time, momentary time. Momentary time. Old Hai and the 9 deacons trembled both physically and mentally. What was going on? Could it be that this Wolf King was able to comprehend a supreme profundity every time it broke through a barrier? One had to know. Even though they were giants who dominated a region, they had only grasped a single supreme profundity. Moreover, that Wolf King also asked me to bring you a message. The deputy city lord's gaze dodged, as if he didn't dare to say it. Say that you're innocent. The 6th deacon said. He said that the show has begun. You must not be afraid. After the deputy city lord finished speaking, he lowered his head with an uneasy look. He was afraid that these big shots would vent their anger on him. Courting death. Without any suspense, the group of big shots in the main hall flew into a rage. This was obviously provoking them. The dignified Blood Hall, the overlord of the Western continent, actually allowed a wolf cub to ride on their heads and behave atrociously? This was intolerable. Is there anything else? The 6th deacon suppressed his anger and looked at the deputy city lord. No. The deputy city lord hurriedly shook his head. The 6th deacon immediately put away the voice transmission stone and roared. This is outrageous. This is simply outrageous. When has our Blood Hall suffered such humiliation? 6th brother, calm down. Perhaps this is their plan. They deliberately angered us and made us lose our minds so that they can deal with us. One of the deacons shouted. That's right. At this time, we must remain calm and not panic. The other deacons also spoke one after another. However, this wolf cub's provocation was indeed annoying. At this time, Wang Changyuan walked in with Yi Miao. Seeing that the atmosphere was not right, he asked suspiciously, "What's going on?" One of the deacons sighed and said, "Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and that Wolf King appeared in Jinyuan City again and killed 2 of our secret guards." What? Wang Changyuan's pupils shrank. These 2 people and 1 wolf were really lawless. At the side, when Yi Miao heard this, there was a trace of gloating in her eyes. Who didn't know who Qin Feiyang was now? How dare they go against him? Weren't they courting death? What are you laughing at? Elder Hai noticed Yi Miao's expression. He stood up and slapped Yi Miao's face hard. Yi Miao spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot, and a striking palm print appeared on her face. As the deputy palace lord of the Blood Hall, do you only know how to bully a weak woman? If you have the ability, go find Qin Feiyang. What's the point of showing off in front of me? Yi Miao Miao covered her burning face and said angrily. I'll kill you, Elder Hai roared, his killing intent rising. Calm down. The palace lord of the Blood Hall shouted and looked at Wang Changyuan. Wang Changyuan understood and stepped forward to stop Elder Hai. Chapter 33:15. What are you doing? Are you going to offend your superior? Old Hai looked at Wang Changyuan angrily and rebuked. I don't dare. Wang Changyuan quickly shook his head and sighed. Sir, please calm down. Lord Hallmaster will take care of this matter. Old Hai glanced at the Blood Hall Master, then snorted coldly and returned to his seat. His eyes flashed with a strong light. Wang Changyuan breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Yi Miao. Don't think that you can be unscrupulous with Qin Feiyang's support. You have to understand that this is the Blood Hall, not the Demon Hall, and not the Black Tortoise World. Immediately send a message and contact Qin Feiyang. Yi Miao said, Qin Dage and I did not establish a contract bridge. Send a message to Yueqing. The Blood Hall Master shouted impatiently. Yi Miao frowned and took out the sound transmission godstone. Back to Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. When they arrived at the Maple Leaf Valley, they stood at the top of the mountain, restrained their aura, and looked at the entrance below. The 10 shadow guards stood motionless in front of the barrier. Even if the deacons entered and exited the barrier, they would have to go through an inspection. Because in their opinion, Qin Feiyang could also have people disguise themselves as the deacons and sneak into the 9-Dragon Mountain range. Of course, this was also the order of the Blood Hall Master. Otherwise the shadow guards would not dare to inspect the deacons. At this moment, coincidentally, a few disciples came back from the outside. The inspection, search, inquiry, and opening of the barrier. Every procedure was extremely strict. Madman had been staring at the light curtain at the entrance with a thoughtful look. Suddenly he muttered, "Why do I feel that the aura of this barrier is familiar?" Familiar? Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf were stunned and looked at the barrier suspiciously. The aura of the barrier was quite weak. Even at such a close distance, it was difficult to sense it. However, if they sensed it carefully, they could still sense it. Wait. There does seem to be a sense of familiarity. Qin Feiyang muttered. Madman's eyes trembled as he transmitted his voice. I remember now. It's the Wandering Cultivator Alliance's barrier. The barrier of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He closed his eyes and used his heart to feel it. Very soon, he opened his eyes, and a glint flashed across his eyes. This aura was exactly the same as the aura emitted by the Independent Cultivator Alliance's barrier. Moreover, it was also the aura of the Law of Space. What was going on? The Rogue Cultivator Alliance's barrier was set up by the Alliance Master. The aura of this barrier was exactly the same as the one in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Could it be that it was also set up by the Alliance Master? But wasn't the Alliance Master a prisoner? Why would he help set up this barrier? Old Qin, something's wrong. Could this Alliance Master have already joined the Blood Hall? Madman looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Join the Blood Palace? White-eyed Wolf was also shocked. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but frown and said, that shouldn't be possible. Then how do you explain this barrier? Madman asked. Qin Feiyang looked at the barrier. His eyes flashed slightly as he sent a sound transmission. Let's go to the Black Tortoise Realm. The next moment, 2 men and 1 wolf appeared in the Black Tortoise Realm. Qin Feiyang released his perception and brought Madman and White-eyed Wolf to appear in the sky above a courtyard. The people inside, come out for a moment, Qin Feiyang said. Before his voice fell, a middle-aged man ran out and flew in front of Qin Feiyang. It was one of the 55 secret guards. Greetings, young master. The middle-aged man bowed. Qin Feiyang nodded. With a wave of his hand, the scene outside appeared. Then he pointed at the barrier and asked, "Do you know who set up this barrier?" "I know. It was set up by the Alliance Master of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance." The middle-aged man looked at the barrier and said truthfully, "It's really him." Madman and White-eyed Wolf looked at each other and asked, "Why would he help the Blood Hall set up this barrier?" "I don't know, because it has always been the big shots who have been in direct contact with him." The middle-aged man shook his head. "Then is the Alliance Master in the Blood Hall now?" Madman asked. "I don't know either." The middle-aged man lowered his head with a terrified look. "Don't be nervous, we're just asking." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and waved his hand. "Continue your cultivation." "Yes." The middle-aged man breathed a sigh of relief and respectfully replied before turning around and returning to the courtyard. "What the hell is going on?" Madman frowned. "It seems that we have to deal with this matter carefully," Qin Feiyang whispered. At the same time, Yueqing stood on the balcony on the 2nd floor and looked at the sky in front of her. There was a trace of worry between her brows. "Meow meow, don't worry, I will definitely think of a way to save you." Buzz! Suddenly, the divine sound transmission stone rang. She took it out and a trace of joy appeared on her face as she quickly activated the divine sound transmission stone. Meow's figure immediately appeared in the void in front of her. "Sister Meow Meow, how are you now? Did they torture you?" Yueqing asked again and again. "Don't worry, I'm fine." Meow shook her head. "You're fine now, but it doesn't mean you'll be fine in the future." The Blood Hall Master grabbed the divine sound transmission stone and looked at Yueqing. "What do you want?" Yueqing looked at the Blood Hall Master angrily. "I don't have time to waste with you. Call Qin Feiyang over. I want to talk to him." The Blood Hall Master said expressionlessly, "Okay. Wait here." Yueqing nodded and glanced at the medicine field. She didn't know where Qin Feiyang was now, so she shouted, "Qin Dage, the Blood Hall Master is looking for you." The Blood Hall Master? Qin Feiyang and the White-eyed Wolf immediately rushed to the sky above Yueqing's courtyard. "Qin Dage," Yueqing waved her hand. Qin Feiyang looked down. When he saw the shadow of the Blood Hall Master, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Then, 2 people and a wolf landed on the terrace and entered the sight of the Blood Hall Master. "Pai Lupi, who had been hiding not far away to monitor Yueqing, also flew over. Isn't this that guy? Why do you have time to send us a message? The white-eyed wolf looked at the Blood Hall Master and laughed strangely. The Blood Hall Master looked at the white-eyed wolf and snorted. Don't be so sarcastic. Let me ask you, have you mastered the supreme mystery of the time law? It seems that the people of Jinyuan City are quite efficient. They informed you so quickly. That's right. I have mastered the momentary time. However, don't be envious because this is something you can't get. The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. The law of death, the law of time. How did you do it? I don't believe that you really have such good talent. The Blood Hall Master said gloomily. Don't look down on others, okay? You can't do it, but it doesn't mean that others can't do it. Don't talk nonsense. Tell me, have you thought about it? Your children and grandchildren are all waiting for you to help them get out of the sea of bitterness. The white-eyed wolf laughed. Get out of the sea of bitterness? What do you mean? The Blood Hall Master frowned. Well, this can only be understood, not explained. The white-eyed wolf smiled evilly. Looking at the white-eyed wolf's smile, the Blood Hall Master couldn't help but feel uneasy. He said in a deep voice, I want to see them. See them? The white-eyed wolf was slightly stunned. Then he frowned and said, After all this time you didn't send us a message to make a deal with us? I have to see with my own eyes that they are still alive. The Blood Hall Master said in a deep voice. It's understandable to confirm before making a deal. The white-eyed wolf thought for a while and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly. He looked at the Blood Hall Master and said with a smile, You don't trust us, and we don't trust you either. How about this? To be fair, let us see the Mermaid Emperor and the others. I was the one who suggested it first. The Blood Hall Master roared. Does it have anything to do with who proposed this first? It's not like we're lining up. Why do we care about first come, first served? Qin Feiyang was speechless. The Blood Hall Master's face was dark. Don't go too far. Old Hai couldn't sit still anymore. He got up and ran to the Blood Hall Master, and looked at Qin Feiyang angrily. Hey, isn't this old dog Hai? You're really not dead. The white-eyed wolf looked at him mockingly. You're not dead. How can I bear to die? Old Hai laughed sinisterly. Don't. We're not the same kind of people. Look at you now. Let's not talk about the Eastern continent. Just look at the Western continent. How many people are spurning you behind your back? Even the disciples of your Blood Hall despise you behind your back. Tell me, even the disciples of your sect are annoyed by you. How much of a failure are you? The ingrate didn't even try to hide it. He mercilessly mocked Elder Hai, causing him to blow his beard and glare. He was extremely angry. Don't be angry. It's bad for your health. If you accidentally die, we'll have to compensate you with a coffin. The white-eyed wolf picked his nose and said indifferently. Yi Miao and Yueqing couldn't help but laugh. This wolf cub was really wicked. As for Old Hai, of course he was going crazy. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't know where Qin Feiyang and the others were hiding, he would have already brought the sovereign divine weapon and killed them. The Blood Hall Master was also angry, but more than that, he was helpless. He patted Old Hai's shoulder and looked at Qin Feiyang. Okay, I'll let you meet the Mermaid Emperor and the others. After that, he looked at Wang Changyuan and shouted, Go and bring them here immediately. Yes. Wang Changyuan responded respectfully. Then he glanced coldly at Qin Feiyang and the others and turned to leave. Madman didn't say anything from the beginning to the end. But at this moment he transmitted his voice to Qin Feiyang. It seems that the Mermaid Emperor and the others are in the Blood Hall. But old Qin, don't be careless. Be careful of their tricks. Tricks? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Whether it's the Mermaid Emperor, the White-Winged Emperor, or the Alliance Master and the two Divine Beasts, they are all extremely valuable to the Blood Hall. So they definitely won't hand them over to us easily. Madman secretly said. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. He asked suspiciously, You mean they might find someone to impersonate them? We can't rule out this possibility. Because if they find someone to impersonate them, they can save Pei Wanli and the others. Secondly, they can take advantage of our unpreparedness and let the impersonator give us a fatal blow behind our backs. This is killing two birds with one stone. Madman smiled coldly. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. They really couldn't be careless about the concern that Madman mentioned. Because if the blood hall really did that, then the situation they were in would instantly be turned around. So they had to be careful. Chapter 33:16. After a while, Wang Changyuan returned. When he walked to the side of the blood hall master, he waved his hand and 5 bloody figures immediately appeared. 2 of them were the Mermaid Emperor and the White Wing Emperor. Both of them were covered in wounds, and most of them were new wounds. There was also a bloody hole in their lower abdomens. They also wore bracelets made of soul-sealing magic stone on their hands. As for the other 2 figures, they were a middle-aged man and 2 divine pythons. The middle-aged man's hair was disheveled and his face and body were covered in blood. He looked extremely miserable, but from his well-defined facial features, it wasn't difficult to tell that he was an extraordinary man. The 2 divine pythons were both fire pythons. They were about 5 to 6 meters long, and their bodies were also covered in wounds. All their scales were broken and their flesh was badly mutilated. They looked extremely miserable. Feiyang, Madman. When they saw Qin Feiyang and Madman, the Mermaid Emperor and White Wing Emperor's eyes trembled. It's us. Qin Feiyang and Madman nodded. Sorry for dragging you guys down. The Mermaid Emperor blamed himself. No. It's us who dragged you guys down. Qin Feiyang quickly shook his head and said in pain, Back then, you guys risked your lives to protect me and senior brother Madman in the Nether King's hell. Otherwise, we would have become a pile of bones. But now we can only watch you guys suffer in the blood hall. Nether King's hell? Risking your life to protect us? When Madman heard Qin Feiyang's words, he was slightly stunned. Back then, the Mermaid Emperor and White Wing Emperor didn't go to the Nether King's hell, right? What's going on with this guy? Is his memory messed up? No. How can someone with such a cultivation level have a messed up memory? Understood. Qin Feiyang was testing the Mermaid Emperor and White Wing Emperor to see if it was their true body? Yes. It's our incompetence that made you guys suffer so much. Madman thought it through and immediately blamed himself. No. You guys are our juniors. It's our responsibility to protect you. The 2 quickly waved their hands. Juniors. Qin Feiyang and Madman raised their eyebrows when they heard this. Speaking of juniors was tantamount to confessing without being pressed. Qin Feiyang was the junior of the Mermaid Emperor and the Great Sage, so there was indeed no problem. However, the mad scientist was from the same era as Qin Batian. Therefore, no matter what, the Mermaid Emperor and the Mermaid Emperor would not say that the mad scientist was their junior. Furthermore, back then Qin Batian, Lu Xingyang, the Mermaid Emperor, the Sword Emperor, the Black-Winged Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor did not go to hell. But now the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor did not deny this point. What did that mean? This meant that the madman was right. The 2 of them were imposters. Since the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor were impersonators, then the Alliance leader and the 2 divine beasts were probably no exception. Because their cultivations had been crippled and they were heavily injured, they could easily find 3 people and 2 pythons or other ferocious beasts to impersonate them. However, even though they had seen through this, Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist did not leave any traces. The 2 of them looked at each other, then looked at the Blood Hall Master and roared. What do you mean? Even now, you still want to torture them like this? You took away our family members. We are angry, so of course we have to find someone to vent our anger. The Blood Hall Master sneered, as if he did not want the 5 imposters to talk to Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist. After all, the more they talked, the more mistakes they would make. What if they exposed some flaws? However, he did not know that the flaws had already been exposed. Vent. A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes, and he sneered. You want to vent your anger? Well, I'll go and vent my anger too. What are you going to do? The Blood Hall Master frowned. I'll take you to watch a good show. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. With a wave of his hand, a group of people suddenly descended above the soul-sealing valley. It stinks. Yueqing immediately covered her nose. How could it be so smelly? But when she lowered her head to take a look, she was stunned. What was this? It's too scary. Is this a place for people to stay? Young master. Sir. Xingde and Theta Wang, who were not far away, saw Qin Feiyang and the others appear and immediately went up to greet them. How is it? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Xingde glanced at the Blood Hall Master and the others, pointed at the soul-sealing valley below, and said with a smile, They are all bathing down there. Qin Feiyang only took a glance and then withdrew his gaze. It was too disgusting, and he did not dare to look. The white-eyed wolf and the mad scientist watched with great interest. They saw Pei Wanli and the others struggling and roaring in the cesspool. However, there was a barrier above them that trapped them, and they could not escape. This barrier was naturally set up by Xingde. The two of you. Please take your time to appreciate it. Qin Feiyang looked at the Blood Hall Master and Old Hai and chuckled. He then turned the voice transmission stone in his hand and pointed it at the soul-sealing valley below. What is this? Not only the Blood Hall Master and Old Hai, but also Yi Miao, Wang Changyuan, the 9 great deacons, and the 3 men and 2 beasts who pretended to be the Mermaid Emperor and the others, all looked at the soul-sealing valley suspiciously. Wait. Suddenly, Wang Changyuan's body trembled, and his face became extremely pale. He said with a trembling voice, This seems to be a cesspool. A cesspool. As soon as these words came out, everyone's face changed color. Yi Miao withdrew her gaze immediately, and her stomach was churning. This Qin Feiyang is a devil, right? He can even think of such a way to torture people. Qin Feiyang, you bastard, are you still human? The Blood Hall Master and the other leaders came back to their senses and roared angrily. They never thought that their family members would be tortured like this at this moment. It would be better to kill them directly. Let's talk about how it feels. How does this way of venting compare to the way you vent? Qin Feiyang looked at the group of leaders with a smile. The Blood Hall Master pointed at the 3 men and 2 beasts who pretended to be the Mermaid Emperor and roared. Believe it or not, I'll kill them right now. Qin Feiyang looked at the 3 men and 2 beasts, but he didn't expose them. He looked at the Blood Hall Master and sneered. If you kill them, I'll kill your children and grandchildren. Let's see who gets the better deal. The Blood Hall Master was trembling with anger. Old Hai and the 9 great deacons were also full of anger. Not to mention anything else, once the news of Pei Wanli and the others soaking in a cesspool spread, they would all become the laughingstock of the Sky Cloud realm. They couldn't bear such a shame. How about it? Do you want to exchange hostages? Don't say I didn't tell you. 1 day outside is 1,000 years in the Black Tortoise realm. If you delay for 1 day, they will have to soak in here for 1,000 years. 1,000 years, just thinking about it makes my scalp tingle. Qin Feiyang looked at the Blood Hall Master with ridicule. Fine. The Blood Hall Master clenched his fists and roared. I'll exchange hostages with you immediately. Great. Qin Feiyang laughed. You mean exchange there? The Blood Hall Master said in a deep voice. 3 days later, I'll personally go to the Blood Hall and exchange with you. Qin Feiyang said. 3 days? Then won't they have to soak in the cesspool for 3,000 years? Absolutely not. We must exchange immediately. The great deacons looked at Qin Feiyang and shouted. Don't worry. Since I've agreed to the exchange, I won't torture them anymore. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, Remember, don't play any tricks. After saying that, Qin Feiyang returned the sound transmission Godstone to Yueqing. Miao Miao, bear with it. Yueqing looked at Yi Miao and said. Yi Miao smiled and said, Don't worry about me. To be able to see this scene and have so many people buried with me, even if I die, it's worth it. Right now, she was also admiring Qin Feiyang's methods. Without saying a word, he had completely wiped out the families of the Blood Hall's big shots. With these bargaining chips, what was there for her to worry about? After Yueqing turned off the sound transmission Godstone, Madman immediately turned to Qin Feiyang and said with a frown, You know it's fake. Why did you still trade with them? What fake? Yueqing, Xingde, Theta Wang, and Pai Lupi looked at Madman suspiciously. Madman shook his head and sighed. The Mermaid Emperor, the White Wing Emperor, the leader, and the 2 divine beasts are all fake. No way. The 4 of them looked at each other. They're indeed fake. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, When we went to the Nether King's Hell, The Mermaid Emperor and the White Wing Emperor didn't go with us. How could they sacrifice themselves to save me and senior brother Madman? These damn things, they're still playing tricks with us? Xingde was furious when he heard this. It doesn't matter. If they want to play, we'll play with them. Qin Feiyang waved his hand with a sneer in his eyes. What's your plan? Madman looked at him suspiciously. In the trade 3 days later, the Blood Hall will definitely give us these 5 fakes like today. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Madman didn't understand and asked, then what? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, since they're going to give us the fakes, then the Mermaid Emperor and the others will definitely hide their true bodies carefully. This is an opportunity for us. White-Eyed Wolf, Madman, and the others looked at each other, and the suspicion in their eyes grew stronger. You still don't understand? Qin Feiyang looked at the group of people. Yes. Everyone nodded. It's actually very simple. This is a trap that I set up. Think about it. Why did I choose to exchange hostages with them in the Blood Hall and not elsewhere? In comparison, the Blood Hall is more dangerous than other places, Qin Feiyang said. That's for sure. The Blood Hall is their nest. Xingde nodded. That's right. The Blood Hall is their nest. I chose the Blood Hall for the trade, so the battle will definitely take place in the Blood Hall. Since the battle will take place in the Blood Hall, they will definitely not let the Mermaid Emperor and the others' true bodies stay in the Blood Hall. Because if they stay in the Blood Hall, then they might be rescued by us. Qin Feiyang smiled. White-Eyed Wolf heard this and said, I understand now. You're luring the snake out of its hole. Yes, luring the snake out of its hole. Since we can't confirm the place where the Mermaid Emperor and the others are being held, then we'll use this point to make them reveal themselves. Let's assume, if the Mermaid Emperor and the others are being held in the Blood Hall, then the Blood Hall will be moved in advance. Then, won't we be able to use this shortcut to find the Mermaid Emperor and the others' true bodies? Let's assume again. If the Mermaid Emperor and the others are being held somewhere outside, then before the trade, they will definitely go out to meet the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor. Qin Feiyang said. Why do they have to meet them? Madman was puzzled. Since it's a fake, then there will definitely be some flaws. The Blood Hall Lord knows that we are not so easily fooled, so before the deal, he will go to the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor to ask about our relationship, as well as what happened in the past, to ensure that everything is flawless. In this way, we can follow them all the way and find them, right? Qin Feiyang smiled. I see. Madman nodded in realization, and then gave a thumbs up. Perhaps only Qin Feiyang could come up with such a plan. Wait. This doesn't seem to be easy to track. What if they directly activate the space-time law or activate the space-time teleportation divine artifact to leave the Blood Hall? The White-Eyed Wolf frowned. They won't be able to activate the space-time teleportation divine artifact to leave. Qin Feiyang smiled. The White-Eyed Wolf was stunned. What did he mean? Brother Wolf, are you stupid? Weren't we just thinking about the 9 Dragon Mountain Ranges boundary? Think about it carefully, Madman said. The White-Eyed Wolf glanced at Madman and lowered his head to ponder. Suddenly he shuddered and raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang. I understand now. This boundary was set up by the Alliance Master, so it's the same as the Alliance capital. It's impossible to activate the space-time teleportation divine artifact inside the boundary. That's right, you're not stupid. Madman laughed. What did you guys say? The 9 Dragon Mountain Ranges boundary was set up by the Alliance Master? Xingde looked at the 2 men and Wolf in shock. But don't be anxious. Perhaps the Alliance Master had no choice. Qin Feiyang looked at Xingde and comforted him. Xingde clenched his fists. His face was filled with disbelief. Why would the Alliance Master help the Blood Hall? Qin Feiyang patted Xingde's shoulder and looked at the White-Eyed Wolf. The Blood Hall's Hall Master must have asked the Alliance Master to set up this boundary to prevent us from activating the space-time teleportation divine artifact to sneak into the Blood Hall. But at the same time, it's also equivalent to trapping them. Now, if they want to leave the 9 Dragon Mountain Range, they have to go through the only exit. So now, we only need to guard the Maple Leaf Valley, and we will definitely gain something. What about the space-time law? Although this boundary can cut off the space-time law, Wuxia has grasped the space-time law after all. Moreover, his comprehension of the space-time law isn't low. The white-eyed wolf was worried. Didn't you see him with your own eyes just now? He hasn't even reconstructed his body and divine soul. How could he activate the space-time law? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. That's true. The white-eyed wolf looked at him and smiled. Seems like this brother isn't suited for using his brain. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He looked at the madman and the white-eyed wolf and said, "Then let's go out and wait for him." The man and the wolf nodded with a sneaky smile on their faces. Young master, wait. What about them? Xingde called out to Qin Feiyang and pointed at Pei Wanli and the others below. Do you really think I'll spare them? Continue to soak. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and disappeared with the white-eyed wolf and the madman. Continue to soak? Xingde was stunned. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. This group of pitiful people. Of all people to provoke, they had to provoke Qin Feiyang. Weren't they looking for trouble? Chapter 33:17. At the same time, a group of people sat in the main hall, their faces as dark as they could get. Wang Changyuan and the 5 impostors stood aside with their heads lowered. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly for fear of getting themselves into trouble. As for Yi Miao, she looked at the group of people with gloating eyes and sneered. You shouldn't have provoked Qin Feiyang. She wasn't afraid at all. As she said to Yueqing before, even if she died here now, it was worth it to have so many people buried with her, and they were all the family members of the big shots. Shut up. Elder Hai was furious and glared at her. It's useless to glare at me. I've told you that we're just friends with Qin Feiyang, but you didn't listen. You had to use me to threaten him. What's the point? Yi Miao snorted coldly. Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you now that Qin Feiyang is protecting you? Elder Hai's eyes were filled with killing intent. I'll say it again. He's not protecting me. He's protecting the Mermaid Emperor and the others. I don't understand. How can you be so sure that we're Qin Feiyang's people? Don't be so smart, okay? Yi Miao sneered. Since you're not related, it's useless to keep you alive now. I'll send you to hell now. Elder Hai's killing intent rose. He landed in front of Yi Miao, raised his arm, and slapped toward Yi Miao's head. Although he was only in the state of divine soul now, it was easy for him to kill Yi Miao. The eyes of the Blood Hall Master flickered. He suddenly stood up and stopped Elder Hai. He looked at Yi Miao and said, Are you really not Qin Feiyang's people? What do you want me to say to make you believe me? Yi Miao looked helpless. Then why is Yueqing following Qin Feiyang? The Blood Hall Master asked. It's on the way, Yi Miao said. On the way? The Hall Master of the Blood Hall was taken aback. What did that mean? We planned to open a branch of the Tianyue Tower in the Blood Hall, but the distance between the western and eastern continents is too far, and we don't have a time and space teleportation divine artifact, so we asked Qin Feiyang for help. That's all. Yi Miao said. Everyone was astonished. They actually wanted to come to the western continent to open a branch. These 2 women were quite ambitious. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall asked, So the Tianyue Tower is really not a force under Qin Feiyang? No, how many times do you want me to say it? Yi Miao raised her eyebrows. Don't be impudent in front of the Palace Master, Wang Changyuan shouted. The Blood Hall Master waved his hand. He then looked at Yi Miao and said, The entire western continent is my Blood Hall's territory. Have you never thought that we would allow you to open a branch in the western continent? Of course we have. Our original plan was to come and talk to you after we came to the western continent and understood the situation. As long as the Tianyue Tower could gain a foothold in the western continent, the division of interests is negotiable. However, we didn't expect things to turn out this way. Yi Miao shook her head. It was almost impossible for the Tianyue Tower to gain a foothold in the western continent. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall's eyes flickered slightly. He looked at Yi Miao and said with a smile, Actually, this matter is negotiable. Yi Miao was stunned and looked at him suspiciously. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall chuckled and said, As long as the Tianyue Tower joins us, not only will we allow you to gain a foothold in the western continent, but we will also fully support your development. What do you mean, Hall Master? Old Hai frowned. Although these two women are not very strong, the Tianhua Tower's force is not to be underestimated. They now have branches in all the major cities in the eastern continent. If we can control this force, it will be of great use in the future. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall smiled secretly. I see. Old Hai suddenly understood. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall looked at Yi Miao and asked with a smile, "What do you think of my proposal?" Yi Miao frowned. I know a little about the situation of the Tianhua Tower. Other than knowing Qin Feiyang, you have no other backing. However, as long as you join us, the Blood Hall will be your backer. With the Blood Hall supporting you, not only the Western continent, but also the Southern continent and the Northern continent will have a place for you. At that time, the forces of the Tianhua Tower will spread throughout the Sky Cloud realm. I'm afraid that even the Demon Palace, Sacred Palace, and Divine Palace will not be able to ignore your existence. It is even possible that the Tianhua Tower will become the fifth superpower in the Sky Cloud realm. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall smiled seductively. Yi Miao Miao remained silent. You can think about it. You don't have to give me an answer now. Moreover, the Tianhua Tower does not need two Hall Masters. One is enough. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall chuckled. Yi Miao's eyes trembled. She looked up at the Hall Master of the Blood Hall and said in a deep voice, "You want me to betray Yueqing and control the Tianhua Tower alone? There are no real friends in this world. There are only eternal interests." The Hall Master of the Blood Hall smiled indifferently. Impossible. Back then, if Yueqing hadn't invited me to join Heavenly Joy Tower, who knows where I would still be struggling to survive. Now that you're asking me to harm her, aren't you asking me to be an ungrateful person? Yi Miao said angrily. But you have to think about it this way. If it weren't for your help, the Tianhua Tower would not have developed so quickly. So, half of the credit goes to you. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall smiled. Yi Miao could not help but fall silent. You don't have to give me an answer now. Think about it carefully. What do you want? Wang Changyuan, take her away. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall waved his hand. Wang Changyuan walked up to Yi Miao and said expressionlessly, "Let's go." Yi Miao glanced at the Hall Master of the Blood Hall, then at Elder Hai and the others. She then turned and left. Wang Changyuan followed closely behind. Hall Master, what are you doing? Although the Tianhua Tower has developed well in the eastern continent, the Shadow Guard commander said when he came back that it was because of Qin Feiyang. With Qin Feiyang's help, the Tianhua Tower can do well in the eastern continent. And the two tower masters of the Tianhua Tower don't have much ability. The sixth deacon looked at the Hall Master and said with a frown, "What I need is not their ability, but the trust the eastern continent has in them. Because of Qin Feiyang, both the Devil Hall and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance are not wary of the Tianhua Tower. As long as we can persuade them to join our Blood Hall, it will definitely be helpful for us to rule the eastern continent in the future." The Hall Master of the Blood Hall said. So that's how it is. The sixth deacon nodded and said with a frown, "How do we deal with Qin Feiyang now?" The Hall Master of the Blood Hall glanced at the 5 impostors and said with a sneer, "Show your true faces." True faces? Elder Hai and the 9 deacons were stunned and turned to look at the 3 men and 2 beasts. Soon, 5 familiar faces appeared in front of them. The 3 of them were middle-aged and were members of the Shadow Guard. The 2 divine pythons turned into 2 ordinary black pythons. They, Elder Hai and the others were stunned. Do you think I'll really return the Alliance Master and the others to them? When I asked Wang Changyuan to bring them here, I secretly told him to get someone to impersonate them. The Hall Master of the Blood Hall sneered. You're brilliant, Hall Master. The 9 deacons gave him a thumbs up, their faces full of admiration. Elder Hai glanced at the 3 men and 2 beasts, then asked the Hall Master of the Blood Hall, "What about the deal in 3 days? We must arrange it well this time. Take this opportunity to get rid of them." The Hall Master of the Blood Hall's eyes turned cold. Then a group of people gathered together to discuss. From time to time, there would be sneers. Maple Leaf Valley, Qin Feiyang Madman, and the White-Eyed Wolf restrained their auras and monitored the entrance. Madman raised his eyebrows and said, "It's been so long. They should have taken action by now, But why haven't we seen a single big shot? Don't worry. If you want to catch a big fish, you must be patient. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. After pondering for a while, a middle-aged man appeared with a thought. It was the shadow guard he saw in the Black Tortoise world. Shoo. The middle-aged man was about to bow when Qin Feiyang hurriedly made a shushing gesture to him. The middle-aged man was stunned. He looked down and his pupils suddenly shrank. I don't know the big shots of your blood hall, so watch carefully. Once someone comes out, tell me immediately. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Okay. The middle-aged man replied secretly. Qin Feiyang had seen the big shots of the blood hall. He only knew the blood hall master, Old Hai, the sixth deacon, and the grand deacon. He didn't know anything about the others. Therefore, the shadow guard had to come out to help monitor. Time flashed and half an hour passed. Whoosh! A middle-aged man in a black robe flew through the air like lightning and landed in front of the entrance. The middle-aged man transmitted his voice. Young master, it's Wang Changyuan. Wang Changyuan. Qin Feiyang looked at the middle-aged man and his eyes flickered. He had seen this person before. When he was communicating with the Blood Hall Master, he was at the side. Furthermore, it was Wang Changyuan who had brought those impostors here. The middle-aged man secretly said, This Wang Changyuan can be considered a big shot of our Blood Hall. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at him suspiciously. He has two identities. One is the Shadow Guard Vice Commander, and the other is the Hall Master's confidant. He has been by the Hall Master's side all year round. It can be said that the Hall Master trusts him more than the Shadow Guard Vice Commander. The middle-aged man transmitted his voice. No way. Qin Feiyang was shocked. Would I dare to lie to you now? It's absolutely true. His strength isn't simple either. He has mastered the Thunder Law's Supreme Profound. Although he's not as big as the Hall Master, he's still considered a big shot in the Western continent. The middle-aged man secretly explained. The Thunder Law's Supreme Profound. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other. It seemed that this was also a big fish. At the same time, the white-eyed wolf's eyes flickered. It was considering whether to plunder this person's Thunder Law or not. If it did so, not only would it master 3 Supreme Profound, but its cultivation would also break through to the sovereign realm. However, this Thunder Law wasn't the strongest law after all. It was very conflicted. Alright, go to the Black Tortoise world first. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent the middle-aged man to the Black Tortoise world. Then he looked at Wang Changyuan, who was being interrogated. Since he was the Blood Hall Master's confidant, there must be a reason for him to come out this time. Perhaps he was transferring the Mermaid Emperor and the others, or going to see the Mermaid Emperor and the others. After a round of inspection, the shadow guard guarding the entrance looked at Wang Changyuan and smiled flatteringly. Vice Commander, I'm sorry for offending you. It's fine. It's a special time. Wang Changyuan waved his hand and acted very magnanimous. Then he quickly walked out of the barrier, activated a space-time teleportation divine artifact, and walked up. Chapter 33:18. Seeing that Wang Changyuan was about to leave, the madman saw that Qin Feiyang wasn't moving and urged. What are you doing? Hurry up and follow him. I'm thinking, is he the big fish we're waiting for? Qin Feiyang frowned. If he was, then that would be for the best. But if he wasn't, then they would miss this rare opportunity. He's the vice commander of the Dark Guards and a trusted aide of the Blood Hall's Hall Master. It's definitely him. The madman transmitted. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and immediately brought the madman and the white-eyed wolf into the Black Tortoise world. Then he controlled the Black Tortoise world and shot into the space-time teleportation artifact. Accompanied by rays of divine light, Wang Changyuan quickly disappeared. Why do you think the vice commander left in such a hurry? Is there even a need to think about it? At this time, no matter what happens, it's definitely related to Qin Feiyang. I just hope that this scourge can be dealt with quickly, and the Western continent can calm down. Otherwise, it's really unbearable to be on the edge all day. The 10 dark guards discussed in low voices. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In the sky above a vast sea, a space-time teleportation divine artifact appeared in the void. Immediately after, a middle-aged man wearing a black robe walked out. It was Wang Changyuan. Wang Changyuan glanced at the sea and waved his hand. He put away the space-time teleportation artifact and flew forward. Black Tortoise World. Qin Feiyang, the madman, and the white-eyed wolf looked at the sea outside. What's going on? They actually came to a sea? Could this be the Heavenly Clouds Sea? They didn't know much about the Heavenly Clouds Sea. Thus, they didn't dare to confirm whether this was the Heavenly Clouds Sea or not. Hurry up and follow, the white-eyed wolf said. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and activated the concealment art. He brought the madman and the white-eyed wolf and appeared above the sea and chased after Wang Changyuan. Wang Changyuan was a paragon ruler and was very fast. If the ingrate could use the supreme profundity of the law of time, instant time, he would definitely be able to catch up. But right now Wang Changyuan was ahead. If they activated the time's time, they would definitely be discovered. This was because the concealment art. Thus, they had to rely on themselves to conceal their auras, to conceal themselves, to conceal their aura. He's too fast. If this continues, we'll lose him. The madman secretly. Don't worry. With a thought from Qin Feiyang, the middle-aged man appeared once again. Immediately after, he pointed at Wang Changyuan and said in a low voice, "Follow him." To follow him. To catch us. TSS right. TTT's to catch. Going T's the god of STT, the AM asked. The middle-aged man glanced at the surrounding sea and nodded. That's right, this is the Heavenly Cloud Sea. And it's not far from our western continent's coastline. Qin Feiyang's group and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other. Could it be that the Alliance Master and the others were hidden in the Heavenly Cloud Sea? About 100 breaths later, in the sea ahead, an island appeared in their line of sight. The island wasn't big, only about half a mile in diameter. There was nothing special on the island. Rocks were piled up and weeds grew everywhere. It looked like a very inconspicuous island. But this island seemed to be Wang Changyuan's destination. Soon, Wang Changyuan landed on the island and scanned it. There wasn't a single sea beast on the island. Then, Wang Changyuan took a step forward and landed in the center of the island. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's group also entered the island. Their eyes were fixed on Wang Changyuan. After Wang Changyuan landed in the center of the island, he went straight to a small mountain. That small mountain was about a dozen meters tall and was covered with dense weeds. Shwa. Suddenly, a black figure jumped out from the grass. It was a fierce black crocodile. Although it was only a meter long, its fangs were dense and its fierce aura was threatening. Greetings, Master. But in front of Wang Changyuan, the fierce crocodile was extremely respectful. Master? Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other. Wang Changyuan looked at the fierce crocodile and asked, "During this period of time, is there anything unusual here?" No. During this period there were some sea beasts that wanted to occupy the island, but they were all forcibly driven away by me. The fierce crocodile shook its head. Then did these sea beasts have any doubts about this place? Wang Changyuan asked. This is even more so. Because I am also a sea beast, they all think that this is my nest. The fierce crocodile said. Very good. Wang Changyuan nodded with a smile and said in a low voice, "You continue to keep an eye on the outside. I will go down and take a look." Yes. The fierce crocodile respectfully responded and disappeared into the grass. Wang Changyuan looked around and the power of law swept out. Accompanied by a loud bang, a 1-meter wide dark passage appeared at the bottom of the hill. It looks like they must be here. Quickly follow them in. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flickered. After Wang Changyuan entered the dark passage, the middle-aged man immediately led Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf into the dark passage quietly. In the next instant, the entrance to the secret passageway began to slowly close, and the secret passageway became pitch black. However, at their cultivation bases, darkness didn't pose much of a threat to them. Looking up, they saw Wang Changyuan walking down the dark passage. This dark passage was inclined downward, like a spinning top, going deep into the sea. Qin Feiyang and the others followed silently. Gradually, a trace of coldness swept over. We should have gone deep into the sea. The white-eyed wolf transmitted his voice. because only the bottom of the sea would have such coldness. That's not what I'm concerned about. I'm only concerned about whether the people we're looking for are here or not. Qin Feiyang secretly said. The white-eyed wolf looked at him, pondered for a moment, and then said, "Speaking of which, if they are really imprisoned here, why is there only one fierce crocodile guarding here?" "It's easy to explain. Because it's safer this way." Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. "Safer?" The white-eyed wolf was taken aback. "That's right. This is the heavenly cloud sea, where there are countless sea beasts and countless people who come here to adventure. If a large number of shadow guards are sent here to guard, it will definitely arouse suspicion. In other words, sending shadow guards to guard here will only be counterproductive and attract everyone's attention. But it's different to have a fierce crocodile guard here. First of all, it's also a sea beast. Just like what the fierce crocodile said, the sea beasts that come here all think that this is its nest. So even if someone comes here, they won't think that there are several big shots imprisoned here. Secondly, that fierce crocodile's cultivation isn't that great, so it won't attract anyone's attention. Qin Feiyang explained. That fierce crocodile's cultivation isn't that great. It's only at the Greater Mastery Sovereign Realm. I've never seen it in the Blood Hall before. This subordinate guesses that Wang Changyuan must have subdued it in the Heavenly Cloud Sea. The middle-aged man transmitted his voice. A Greater Mastery Sovereign Realm cultivation isn't that great? The white-eyed wolf was speechless. If such a cultivation was placed in the ancient world, it would be a godlike existence. It's indeed not that great in front of us complete realm sovereigns. The middle-aged man smiled embarrassedly. I know. The world is different. Which place can compare to the heavenly cloud realm? But speaking of which, the Blood Hall does have some means. If we weren't smart enough to follow Wang Changyuan, we wouldn't have thought so much when we saw this island. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. So we can't underestimate anyone. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. But we're still a level higher. The white-eyed wolf grinned. Qin Feiyang and Madman couldn't help but shake their heads and laugh. Greetings, Deputy Commander. Suddenly, two respectful voices sounded from the front. There's someone else? The three men and one wolf were stunned. They quickly walked over and stopped at a corner. Looking up, the end of the tunnel was right in front of them. At the end, there were two thick stone doors that were tightly shut. In front of the stone doors there was a secret guard. They had restrained their aura like two ghosts. If you didn't see it with your own eyes, you would never know that there were two people standing here. Wang Changyuan stood in front of the two and nodded his head. He then asked, "Is there any movement inside?" "Not much. They're quite obedient." The two secret guards smiled. "Okay." Wang Changyuan took out a black token from his arms and walked to the stone door on the left. He glanced at the stone door. There was a groove on the stone door. The size and depth were similar to the token in Wang Changyuan's hand. Wang Changyuan grabbed the token, tiptoed, and placed the token into the groove. Boom! The entire stone door shook and then slowly rose. A dark secret room appeared. At this moment, Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, and Madman were all excited. The secret room was about 10 feet long. On the floor of the secret room, there were two familiar figures sitting there. It was the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor. At this moment, there were no injuries on their bodies. However, there were many dried blood stains. It seemed that they had been tortured a lot in the past and were in a bad state. The Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor slowly raised their heads. They were wearing bracelets made of soul-sealing magic stone. When they saw their faces, Qin Feiyang, the White-Winged Emperor, and the White-Eyed Wolf were instantly filled with killing intent. They were old and clumsy, and their eyes were unfocused at this moment. They were no longer as elegant as before. They were like two old men in their twilight years, only haggard and desperate. These damn things, even if they die, it won't be enough to vent the hatred in my heart. The white-eyed wolf roared in his heart. Don't be rash. Wang Changyuan has mastered the supreme profundity of the law of thunder. We can't defeat him in a head-on battle, so we have to find an opportunity to destroy his sea of qi. Qin Feiyang suppressed the killing intent in his heart and transmitted his voice. The blood in the blood sea of the western region had almost been used up. The ancient castle would not easily make a move. So now, they could only rely on themselves to rescue the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor. Chapter 33:19. In the secret chamber. Wang Changyuan walked in and sneered at the Mermaid Emperor. Look at you. You still don't seem convinced? It's useless to say more. I'll just say one thing. Feiyang won't let you go. The Mermaid Emperor said expressionlessly. Then the two lowered their heads and closed their eyes to rest. Won't let us go. Wang Changyuan muttered as a trace of viciousness crawled up from the space between his brows. He took a step forward and directly kicked the two of them away. And then he laughed savagely. He's already unable to protect himself now. Yet both of you still hope that he'll come save you? Ridiculous. Bastard, just you wait. I'll let you know what it's like to live a life worse than death. The frenzied one and the white-eyed wolf were furious. Don't make any noise. Qin Feiyang instructed in his heart. Then he looked at the middle-aged man and transmitted his voice to him. Your cultivation is stronger than ours. Now find an opportunity to attack. You must cripple his qi in one go. Okay. The middle-aged man replied secretly. Then, the three of them and the wolf silently flew toward the secret chamber. The two secret guards guarding outside did not notice at all. In the secret chamber, facing Wang Changyuan's contempt and ridicule, the Mermaid Emperor and the frenzied one did not say anything. They believed in Qin Feiyang. Since Qin Feiyang could save the Sword Emperor and the Black Wing King, he could definitely save them. They just needed to wait quietly. As for being unable to protect themselves, they had never thought of it that way, because they knew Qin Feiyang too well. No matter how difficult it was, no matter how big the crisis, this child could solve it. This was a kind of trust. People like Wang Changyuan would never understand this kind of thing. Wang Changyuan lowered his head and looked at the two of them. Their unyielding eyes made him very angry. Finally, he waved his hand and said in annoyance, I'm really sick. How can I compete with you two ants? The Mermaid Emperor and the frenzied one were silent. I'm here this time to ask you something. You'd better answer truthfully. Don't force me to do it. Tell me everything about you, Qin Feiyang and the lunatic. Wang Changyuan took out a chair and sat in front of the two, speaking condescendingly. Hearing this, the Mermaid Emperor and the Emperor looked at each other, and a trace of suspicion crept into their eyes. Why did they suddenly come here to inquire about these things? I don't want to repeat myself. Wang Changyuan spoke with an undisguised threat. The White-Wing Emperor looked at Wang Changyuan, and suddenly revealed a look of realization. He turned to the Mermaid Emperor and smiled. I understand now. Understand what? The Mermaid Emperor looked at him suspiciously. They must have suffered a great loss at Feiyang's hands and were helpless. That's why they came to us to inquire about the past. The White-Wing Emperor smiled. The Mermaid Emperor was slightly stunned. He nodded and said, That makes sense. I thought that the Blood Hall was very powerful. It turns out that they are just SOSO. They even said that Feiyang couldn't even protect himself. If Feiyang really couldn't protect himself, would he still keep us as a bargaining chip? You don't know? Pure posturing. The Blood Hall is really a joke. The White-Wing Emperor's face was also full of sarcasm. Seeing the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Wing Emperor chatting as if there was no one else around, the hostility between Wang Changyuan's brows became even stronger. He stood up and revealed a sinister smile. It seems that you haven't suffered enough over the years. After saying that, he was ready to attack the two. But at this moment, a big hand appeared out of thin air behind him. The palm carried the power of law, and went straight for Wang Changyuan's back. This scene was too sudden. Even if Wang Changyuan felt the danger behind him, he couldn't dodge it, let alone counterattack. Boom. The next moment, a terrifying aura erupted in the secret chamber. The invisibility state of the concealment technique was forcefully broken. Qin Feiyang, the other two, and the white-eyed wolf appeared. The person who attacked was naturally the middle-aged man. However, although this palm landed solidly on Wang Changyuan's body, Qin Feiyang, the other two, and the white-eyed wolf didn't feel the slightest bit of joy. Because at the moment when the palm landed, A set of golden armor suddenly appeared on Wang Changyuan's body. This armor seemed to be made of gold, and emitted a dazzling divine light. This was a supreme divine artifact. Crack. Although the middle-aged man's palm contained the power of law, shattered the armor, and blasted Wang Changyuan away, causing blood to gush out, it didn't destroy his sea of qi. This armor helped Wang Changyuan block more than half of the attack. At the same time, the two secret guards outside the door heard the commotion, and quickly rushed into the secret chamber. When they saw Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, and the lunatic, their expressions immediately changed. How could it be them? Facing this sudden scene, the Mermaid Emperor and the White Wing Emperor were also surprised and bewildered. When they raised their heads and saw that it was actually Qin Feiyang, the lunatic, and the white-eyed wolf, their expressions were immediately filled with joy. There were even tears in their eyes. Damn it! How did you find this place? Wang Changyuan climbed up from the ground. When he saw Qin Feiyang and the others, he immediately roared and slapped the Mermaid Emperor and the white-eyed wolf. At this time, he couldn't care too much. He had to kill these two. Humph! Qin Feiyang coldly snorted. With a wave of his hand, the two disappeared. As long as the Mermaid Emperor and the White Wing Emperor went to the Black Tortoise world, then everything else could be slowly solved. Damn it, damn it! Wang Changyuan roared. The Thunder Law rolled out and attacked Qin Feiyang and the others. At the same time, he looked at the two secret guards behind him and roared. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and help kill them. The two quivered and immediately activated the power of law, attacking Qin Feiyang from behind. The middle-aged man's eyes darkened. He activated the power of law, and punched the ceiling of the stone chamber. Rumble. The stone chamber trembled, but it didn't collapse. The four walls were suffused with strands of purple lightning. Not good. This stone chamber is supported by the power of law. I can't break it open in a short time. The middle-aged man's face changed. Then let's charge out. The madman roared. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and led Qin Feiyang, the Mermaid Emperor, and the white-eyed wolf to charge at the two secret guards. Rumble. The middle-aged man and the two secret guards collided. The middle-aged man immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, but he also forced the two secret guards back. Then he activated the support divine technique and rushed out of the secret passage without looking back. Chase. Wang Changyuan roared. Whoosh. The three of them used the support divine technique and chased after Qin Feiyang and the others. So fast. The madman looked back and his pupils constricted. Of course it's fast. Wang Changyuan has a sovereign-level heaven-defying support-type divine art, while my heaven-defying support-type divine art is only legendary level. The middle-aged man said in a deep voice. This secret passage shouldn't be supported by the power of law. Let's charge out. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and sighed inwardly. Yes. The middle-aged man's aura was like a rainbow as he rushed up with the two men and the wolf. How could ordinary soil and rocks possibly stop a paragon hegemon? It was crazily shattering. Outside. At this moment, the entire island was shaking as if there was a huge earthquake. The fierce crocodile ran out and soared into the sky, looking at this scene in shock. What was going on? Could it be that Master was torturing the people in the stone chamber? But this commotion was too big. Boom. Almost in the next instant, the ground collapsed as three men and one wolf broke out of the ground like lightning and rushed into the sky. The fierce crocodile looked at Qin Feiyang and the others with a confused expression. Soon after, Wang Changyuan and the two secret guards also rushed out. The fierce crocodile asked in surprise, Master, what's going on? They are Qin Feiyang. Wang Changyuan roared angrily and charged towards Qin Feiyang and the others with lightning that filled the sky. Young master, step back. The middle-aged man pushed away Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf, activated the 6 profundities of law, and charged toward Wang Changyuan without hesitation. Wang Changyuan looked at the middle-aged man and was slightly stunned. He raised his eyebrows and said, You seem to be a secret guard of our blood hall? He didn't pay much attention when they were underground, but now that he looked at him head-on, he actually had some concealment. That's right. I'm a secret guard of the blood hall, but now I've forsaken the darkness and joined the light. I'm now the young master's secret guard. The middle-aged man nodded. How dare you betray the blood hall? This is unforgivable. Wang Changyuan was furious. A dignified secret guard of the blood hall, and a paragon dominator at that, had actually submitted to Qin Feiyang. This was an absolute humiliation. How could this be? Why did he join Qin Feiyang? The other two secret guards looked at the middle-aged man with disbelief. What are you waiting for? Kill them! Wang Changyuan roared. The two secret guards immediately quivered and activated the power of law, charging toward Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. Seeing this, the fierce crocodile on the side quietly retreated. Qin Feiyang pointed at the fierce crocodile and shouted, "White-eyed wolf, go kill it." This was to prevent the crocodile from reporting. Okay. The white-eyed wolf grinned and activated momentary time, instantly appearing in front of the fierce crocodile. When the fierce crocodile heard Qin Feiyang shout, it was somewhat disdainful. It could see through the white-eyed wolf's cultivation at a glance. It was just a beginner dominator. Yet it dared to kill it? This was sending the wolf cub to its death. However, when the white-eyed wolf activated momentary time and appeared in front of it, it immediately panicked. What kind of speed was this? It didn't see how it came over at all. This is momentary time. It really grasps the supreme profoundness of the time law. Wang Changyuan, who was about to fight with the middle-aged man, looked at the white-eyed wolf and was immediately shocked. Momentary time. The two secret guards who were charging toward Qin Feiyang and Madman couldn't help but tremble. What was going on? It was just a beginner dominator. Yet it had comprehended the supreme profoundness of the time law. The news of the white-eyed wolf running to Jinyuan City and fighting with the two secret guards hadn't spread yet, so not many people knew about it. Moreover, right now, these two secret guards had been guarding the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor. Because the environment was sealed, they almost didn't know what had happened in the Western continent during this period of time. Therefore, not to mention the supreme profoundness of the time law, they didn't even know the supreme profoundness of the death law. It's actually the supreme profoundness. The fierce crocodile was naturally even more shocked and turned to flee. The white-eyed wolf's eyes were filled with disdain. The death law emerged, and a dark red waning moon appeared in the sky. Then it attacked the fierce crocodile with lightning speed. This seems to be the supreme profoundness of the death law, dusk of the gods? The two secret guards looked at the waning moon in shock, feeling as if they were dreaming. No, the fierce crocodile roared in horror. Not to mention whether this thing was the supreme profoundness of the death law. Just the energy of death emitted by the waning moon made it despair. Rumble. The waning moon fell, and everything was annihilated. The fierce crocodile screamed in pain and died on the spot. Not even its bones were left. A little reptile at the peak dominator realm dares to look down on this big brother? You really don't know the meaning of death. The white-eyed wolf laughed in disdain. He looked at the two secret guards and sneered. This big brother wants to see how big the gap is between me and you perfect dominators. The dark red waning moon appeared again, and with a monstrous might, it attacked the two. Chapter 33:20. Qin Feiyang and Madman frowned. The white-eyed wolf was too arrogant. He actually dared to attack a perfect ruler? At the same time, the two shadow guards couldn't help but stare blankly. Two supreme profundities were indeed ridiculously powerful. They could instantly kill a greater success ruler. However, he was still an initial ruler. How could he challenge a perfect ruler? Wasn't he looking down on them? One of the secret guards waved his hand. Along with a monstrous sword energy, a giant dragon appeared. The fifth profundity of the law of sword, raging dragon. Roar. The dragon's roar was deafening. Divine might filled the sky, causing the world to tremble. In the blink of an eye, the giant dragon and the crescent moon collided. There was no suspense. Facing the absolute suppression of cultivation, the crescent moon shattered on the spot. Pooh. The white-eyed wolf spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. Cracks appeared on his body as blood flowed out. So strong. The white-eyed wolf was shocked. The law of death was a supreme law and a supreme profundity. However, when facing a perfect ruler, the difference was like heaven and earth. Wasn't this gap a little too big? As expected, a supreme profundity could at most surpass 2 minor realms. Roar. The raging dragon didn't stop, and continued to attack the white-eyed wolf. When Qin Feiyang and Madman saw this, they hurriedly rushed to the white-eyed wolf. Qin Feiyang took out a divine life pill and stuffed it into the white-eyed wolf's mouth. I say, you're too arrogant. You actually dare to challenge a perfect ruler? Fortunately, it's only a collision of profundities. If that raging dragon attacked you directly, you wouldn't even have a corpse left. Madman glared fiercely at the white-eyed wolf. Didn't I just want to try? The white-eyed wolf smiled embarrassedly. You're crazy. Madman cursed and turned to look at the raging dragon formed by sword energy. His expression was extremely solemn. He didn't have any confidence facing a perfect ruler. Now we don't have to make a move, Qin Feiyang muttered as a glint flashed across his eyes. With a thought, numerous figures immediately appeared beside him. A total of 54 people. They were none other than the 54 shadow guards. Go cripple them. Following Qin Feiyang's order, the 54 shadow guards' auras erupted, and their murderous auras surged towards the raging dragon. Boom. The raging dragon instantly dissipated. One had to know that these 54 secret guards were all Paragon sovereigns. Any one of them could fight against the 2 dark guards, not to mention the 54 of them working together. It was completely unstoppable. What's going on? You guys actually joined Qin Feiyang as well. The 2 shadow guards looked at the 54 people in astonishment. This must be a dream. It was still acceptable for one shadow guard to pledge allegiance to Qin Feiyang. After all, some shadow guards were afraid of death. But now there were 55 shadow guards. Why did so many people seek refuge with Qin Feiyang? However, the 54 shadow guards turned a deaf ear, and their expressions were indifferent. Even if they were former comrades, as long as Qin Feiyang said a word, they would not hesitate to attack. With the 54 people joining forces, they instantly shattered the chi si of the 2 shadow guards. Even their divine souls were severely injured, and they lay in the void on the verge of death. What? At this moment, Wang Changyuan also noticed this scene, and his expression instantly froze. Not only the middle-aged man, but so many shadow guards also sought refuge with Qin Feiyang? You bunch of white-eyed wolf, I'm going to kill all of you. Wang Changyuan roared, and the law of lightning rolled out. The law of lightning contained an aura that could destroy heaven and earth, and it flooded in all directions like a tide. The middle-aged man was the first to bear the brunt. With a puff, he spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. He shouted, he's going to activate the ultimate skill. Quickly, protect the young master. As soon as he said that, the 54 shadow guards immediately stood in front of Qin Feiyang, the mad scientist and the white-eyed wolf. Their expressions were extremely solemn. At the same level, the ultimate skill was an invincible existence. Even if they joined forces, they would not be able to block it. Old Qin, let's retreat. The mad scientist said solemnly. Retreat? Qin Feiyang lowered his head and looked at the shattered island. Since the Mermaid Emperor and the White-Winged Emperor were imprisoned here, then the Alliance Master and the 2 divine beasts must also be here. They might be in another secret chamber. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If he missed it this time, he might not be able to find another opportunity in the future. He had promised the Fire Dragon, his master, and the Hall of Famers that he would definitely save the Alliance Master and the 2 divine beasts, so he definitely could not give up like this. But Wang Changyuan was too strong. With their strength, even if they joined forces, they would not be able to defeat him. What should they do? Crack. Boom. The divine thunder roared and the heavenly might surged. The void around Wang Changyuan seemed to have turned into a sea of lightning. It was powerful and exuded a destructive aura. Under the shroud of this aura, the middle-aged burly man and the other dark guards could not help but turn pale and tremble. Boom. Suddenly, a huge eye appeared in the rolling lightning. It was purple-gold in color, like the eye of the heavens, emitting a ruthless light. Eye of lightning, annihilation. Following Wang Changyuan's roar, a purple-gold lightning shot out from the purple-gold eye. The destructive aura swept through the sky in an instant, annihilating the void and collapsing the sky. The sea below evaporated instantly. Young master, leave quickly. The middle-aged burly man rushed to Qin Feiyang's side and roared in horror. The other dark guards also had anxious looks on their faces. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. Weren't the Alliance Master and the two divine beasts the key to turning the tables? As long as they could save them, they could definitely kill Wang Changyuan with their strength. But the problem was that the token to open the stone door was with Wang Changyuan. Given the current situation, it would be extremely difficult to get the token from Wang Changyuan. As for forcefully breaking into the secret chamber, obviously, that was not the case now. Because the middle-aged burly man had said that the secret chamber where the Mermaid Emperor and Emperor were imprisoned was supported by the power of law. The secret chamber where the Alliance Master and the two divine beasts were imprisoned must also be supported by the power of law. Qin Feiyang had also seen the power of law. It was the law of lightning. This must be Wang Changyuan's masterpiece. Wang Changyuan's law of lightning had reached the highest level, and its strength was naturally extraordinary. Therefore, with the strength of these dark guards, they would not be able to break it in a short time. In other words, this would take some time. But now they obviously did not have time. What should we do? Qin Feiyang's mind kept flashing through one idea after another, but he rejected them one by one. Fight! Seeing that Qin Feiyang was indifferent, the middle-aged burly man gritted his teeth and roared. Boom! The group of dark guards immediately activated their law ultimates without holding back. Each of them had 6/5 ultimates. There were 55 of them, so a total of 330 ultimates were densely packed and covered the sky. Kill! Following the middle-aged burly man's roar, the 330 ultimates immediately blasted toward the purple-gold lightning. Rumble! A series of deafening explosions immediately sounded in the sky above the sea. This place also turned into chaos. Terrifying airflows and storms swept in all directions. It was like the scene of the beginning of the world, shocking the world. However, even though he had 330 kinds of divine abilities, he couldn't stop the world-extinguishing lightning light. The ultimates were shattered one after another. They were simply like withered trees, unable to withstand a single blow. As the ultimates were shattered, the dark guards' bodies and minds trembled violently, and blood gushed out. This was the terror of the highest level of ultimates. No matter how many fifth ultimates you had, you could not stop it at all. In less than 3 breaths, all 330 ultimates were shattered. The group of dark guards was severely injured, and their faces were as pale as paper. Little Qinzi, what are you thinking? If we don't retreat now, we will all die here. The white-eyed wolf roared. Madman and the group of secret guards were also very anxious, because the world-destroying lightning bolt was already coming for them. Let's fight to the death. The middle-aged burly man sighed. The group of dark guards silently nodded. They stared at the world-destroying thunder, and were all prepared to fight to the death. But at this moment, Qin Feiyang suddenly raised his head, and 2 beams of light burst out of his eyes. Then, he waved his hand, and the white-eyed wolf, the mad scientist, the dark guards, and the 2 dark guards whose sea of qi had been destroyed all appeared in the sky above the Devil's Land. The group was stunned at first, but then they could not help but let out a sigh of relief. They were finally out of danger. Wait, where is little Qinzi? The white-eyed wolf's expression suddenly changed. He scanned the surroundings and did not see Qin Feiyang's trace. This bastard, he actually stayed outside alone. Does he want to die? The mad scientist roared. The group of dark guards also changed color. What was the young master doing? With his cultivation, how could he be Wang Changyuan's opponent? As for the 2 dark guards whose cultivation had been destroyed, they looked at the Devil's Land in surprise. Was this the Black Tortoise realm? Outside, Wang Changyuan couldn't help but be stunned when he saw Qin Feiyang send everyone out of the Black Tortoise world, and leave only him outside. After that, a wisp of ridicule rose on the corners of his mouth as he said, "Are you looking down on me? You actually stayed behind alone." Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear to him and lowered his head to look below. The island had long been destroyed in the battle. Although the island was gone, the 2 secret rooms were still there. After all, with the support of the power of laws, it was not so easy to destroy. At this moment, the 2 stone rooms stood on the seabed, wrapped in mud. The seawater in this area had long evaporated, and the seabed was clearly visible, so the two secret rooms could also be seen. Chua. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang turned in the air and dived down to the seabed like lightning. Where can you escape to? Wang Changyuan smiled contemptuously. With a wave of his hand, the destructive thunder immediately turned in the air and madly attacked Qin Feiyang. The crisis of death enveloped him. But Qin Feiyang did not panic at all. His eyes were fixed on the stone room. At the same time, in the stone room, this stone room was completely different from the stone room where the Mermaid Emperor and the White Wing Emperor were. Not only was it clean, but there was also a tea table and chairs made of 10,000-year-old mahogany neatly placed. And at this moment, the stone room was filled with a faint tea fragrance. On the tea table, there was a porcelain teapot that looked like it was made of precious jade. There was also an incense burner next to it. Wisps of green smoke floated, exuding a pleasant sandalwood fragrance. Chapter 33:21. A middle-aged man was sitting beside the tea table. He picked up the teacup on the table and tasted it quietly. He was wearing a white robe and had a faint smile on his chiseled face. He looked gentle and elegant. He was also wearing a bracelet made of soul-sealing magic stone on his wrist. There was no aura at all, just like an ordinary person. However, it did not affect his temperament at all. There were two small things lying on his left and right shoulders. They were two fire pythons. They were very small, about the length of a chopstick. Their fiery red eyes looked extremely lively. Cultivation could not be sensed from them, but they were emitting an invisible pressure that made one's heart palpitate. There seems to be a fight outside. One of the fire pythons said. It was a woman's voice. Let them fight. It has nothing to do with us. The middle-aged man in white smiled slightly. Aren't you curious about who is fighting with the dark guards of the blood hall outside? The other fire python asked. It was a man's voice that was full of magnetism. It can't be someone from our rogue cultivator alliance. The middle-aged man in white smiled. This stone room was soundproof and had the ability to isolate aura. Therefore, they could only vaguely feel that there was a fight outside. Not necessarily. When the Blood Hall Master asked you to help set up a barrier in the 9-Dragon Mountain range last time, didn't he say that Old Man Ye's disciple came from the eastern continent? Could it be this child? The two fire pythons guessed. Who knows? The middle-aged man in white shook his head. But then again, what the hell is this Old Man Ye doing? He caused us to be like this back then and now he let this disciple come to the western continent. Could it be that he was ordered by Old Man Ye to eliminate the root of the problem? The female fire python said suspiciously. If that's the case, then the cooperation between Old Man Ye and the Blood Hall shouldn't be as smooth as we thought. The middle-aged man in white chuckled. Of course, Old Man Ye wants to get rid of us, but the Blood Hall refuses to kill us and wants us to surrender. For Old Man Ye, we are naturally a potential threat. When he plotted against us back then, I'm afraid he didn't expect things to develop to this point. The male fire python sneered with a strong sense of sarcasm in his tone. Suddenly, the middle-aged man in white raised his head and looked up. There seemed to be a very strong aura coming towards them. Outside, Qin Feiyang had already reached the bottom of the ocean and was only 100 feet away from the stone chamber. Behind him, the world-extinguishing thunder light was also rushing over with a murderous aura. Let's see where you can run to. In the sky, Wang Changyuan sneered. But suddenly, he noticed that there seemed to be something wrong with the stone room that was covered in mud. Not good. Following closely, his face changed as he tried to control the world-extinguishing thunder light. However, it was too late. Whether it was for Qin Feiyang or the world-destroying thunder light, the distance of 100 feet was just a matter of a moment. When he reached the stone chamber, Qin Feiyang suddenly disappeared, and the world-extinguishing lightning directly bombarded the stone chamber. Rumble. Accompanied by an earth-shaking explosion, the stone room was torn apart. That was right. This was Qin Feiyang's plan. Borrowing power. Borrowing Wang Changyuan's power to break open the stone chamber. Because this stone chamber was supported by Wang Changyuan's power of law, Wang Changyuan's power could definitely break it open easily. Not to mention, This was the supreme meaning of the law of thunder. As long as Wang Changyuan did not detect his purpose in advance, it would be effortless. As expected, when the world-extinguishing thunder light bombarded the stone chamber immediately cracked open, and the middle-aged man in white immediately appeared. Not good. Wang Changyuan saw the middle-aged man in white break out, and his face suddenly changed. He quickly rushed towards the middle-aged man in white. But at this moment, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air again, looked up at Wang Changyuan, and laughed. "Thank you for helping to break open the stone chamber. Bastard, I'll kill you." Wang Changyuan was furious. At the same time, the middle-aged man in white and the two fire pythons on his shoulders looked at Qin Feiyang curiously. Could this kid be old man Ye's disciple? Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at the middle-aged man in white, and asked, "You are the leader?" "Yes." The middle-aged man in white nodded. "Junior Qin Feiyang greets the leader." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and saluted. "Qin Feiyang," the leader whispered. It was a very unfamiliar name, but this courage in the face of danger was admirable. Qin Feiyang said, "Leader, we'll talk about the details later. Let's deal with this Wang Changyuan first." "I can't deal with him now." The leader shook his head. And Qin Feiyang frowned slightly. Only then did he notice that the leader did not have the slightest aura, and he was also wearing a bracelet on his hand. It seemed that this person's Sea of Qi had also been destroyed, but it didn't matter. He had a way to quickly repair the leader's Sea of Qi. So this is the plan. Save the leader so that he can kill me. Unfortunately, you still missed out one thing. His Sea of Qi has been destroyed. Wang Changyuan laughed and rushed forward. But at the same time, with a wave of his hand, Qin Feiyang brought the leader along and disappeared without a trace. Wang Changyuan was stunned for a moment. Then his divine sense swept out, locking onto the Black Tortoise world. The lightning law's highest profundity appeared once again, blasting towards the Black Tortoise world. However, even the highest profundity did not cause any damage to the Black Tortoise world. Although the Black Tortoise world's vitality was greatly damaged after the battle on White Crane Island, the Black Tortoise world's toughness did not weaken at all, still as tough as a sovereign weapon. Therefore, only a sovereign weapon could threaten the Black Tortoise world. In the Devil's Land, the moment Qin Feiyang appeared with the leader, he waved his hand and broke the leader's bracelet. Looking down at the courtyard, he said, "Lord Wife, quickly come out." Whoosh! Before he finished speaking, the mermaid princess flew out from the courtyard, landing in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang pointed at the leader and the two fire pythons on his shoulder, saying, "Quickly help them repair their Sea of Qi." "Okay." The mermaid princess nodded and activated her fighting soul. A majestic life force suddenly surged out, merging into the bodies of the leader and the two fire pythons. At the same time, she activated the law of life. The life force contained within was several times stronger than the life force of the fighting soul. Whether it was the leader or the two fire pythons, their shattered Sea of Qi began to repair at a speed visible to the naked eye. This is the law of life. The leader and the two fire pythons felt the terrifying life force, and their faces were filled with shock. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also looked at the mermaid princess, a trace of a smile on his face. With this little girl around, he did not have to worry about being injured in the battle outside. Because, whether it was the fighting soul or the law of life, both could help him heal his injuries. Moreover, the healing effect far exceeded that of the divine life pill. It could be said that the two were not on the same level. Boom! In less than 10 breaths, the Sea of Qi of the leader and the two fire pythons were restored to their original state, and a powerful aura spread out. One had to know that they were complete sovereigns, and yet they were able to repair their Sea of Qi so quickly. If it were Qin Feiyang, he might be able to do it in 2 to 3 breaths. The effect was too shocking. More than 10 breaths in the Black Tortoise world was less than an instant outside. Seeing that he could not break the Black Tortoise world, Wang Changyuan decisively took out the Divine Sound Transmission Stone and prepared to send a message to the Blood Hall Master. However, at this moment, a terrifying aura descended. Wang Changyuan quivered and quickly looked at the void in front of him, only to see two figures appear out of thin air. It was Qin Feiyang and the Alliance leader. The two fire pythons were still lying on the alliance leader's shoulder, but there was a trace of murderous intent in their eyes. How is this possible? Their sea of qi has been repaired so quickly. Wang Changyuan looked at the alliance leader and the two fire pythons, and his face turned pale. Old Wang, you have taken good care of us all these years. Tell us, how should we repay you? The alliance master chuckled like a scholar. He appeared amiable and courteous. However, both Wang Changyuan and Qin Feiyang, who was beside him, could feel a chill from him. Whoosh! Wang Changyuan turned around and began to flee. The alliance leader shook his head and smiled. Waves of space-time laws spread out, and as he took a step forward, he appeared in front of Wang Changyuan in the next instant. This is crossing space-time. Qin Feiyang mumbled. It felt as if the alliance leader had merged with space-time, and he could not catch his tracks at all. Old Wang, why are you running? Stay and chat with me. The alliance leader smiled. What do we have to chat about? Wang Changyuan turned and fled in another direction. Whoosh! However, at this moment, the female fire python rushed out and blocked in front of Wang Changyuan. She smiled and said, "We are so familiar with each other. Why don't we have anything to talk about?" Wang Changyuan's expression changed, and he fled in another direction. However, the male fire python also rushed out like lightning and blocked in front of him. Immediately, the man and the two beasts formed a triangle, with Wang Changyuan in the middle. Wang Changyuan was extremely frightened. He was also puzzled. How could they repair their energy reserve so quickly? Old Wang, tell us, how should we thank you for your care all these years? The alliance leader spoke again. Fuck off, I'll take you down with me. Wang Changyuan roared. The supreme law of thunder appeared, and he attacked the alliance leader crazily. Die with you. The alliance leader murmured and laughed. You seem to be a little too naive. The alliance leader raised his hand, and the void in front of him collapsed, turning into an ice crystal-like arrow. It was dazzling and shot toward the world-destroying thunder. Following a loud explosion, the world-exterminating lightning that caused Qin Feiyang and the others to despair appeared to be unable to withstand a single blow. In an instant, it was turned into ashes by the sharp arrow. So powerful. Is this the supreme law of space-time? Qin Feiyang stared at the ice crystal-like arrow in shock. Whoosh! The ice crystal-like arrow did not stop at all. As if it had traveled through time and space, it instantly swept to the spot between Wang Changyuan's eyebrows. The flesh between Wang Changyuan's eyebrows was immediately shattered, and a sense of danger surged from his divine soul. Alliance leader, please show mercy. Qin Feiyang hurriedly shouted. The alliance leader waved his hand and the ice crystal-like arrow stopped between Wang Changyuan's eyebrows. Then he looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Chapter 33:22. At the same time, the two divine pythons also looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. Even Wang Changyuan was bewildered. Qin Feiyang was actually pleading for him? What did he mean? But at this moment, he did not dare to act rashly because the ice crystal arrow was hanging between his eyebrows. If he dared to move, the alliance master would definitely kill him without hesitation. Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Changyuan and walked to the alliance master. He said in a low voice, "This person is useful to me. Just crush his energy reserve." Useful? The alliance master looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Seeing that Qin Feiyang had no intention to explain, he shook his head and smiled. "Okay, since you saved us, I promise you." After saying that, he waved his hand and the ice crystal arrow appeared in front of Wang Changyuan's lower abdomen, as if it had traveled through time. Then, the ice crystal arrow pierced through Wang Changyuan's lower abdomen, leaving a small bloody hole. Puff! Wang Changyuan spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura quickly dissipated. "Thank you." Qin Feiyang looked at the alliance master and said gratefully. Then he walked to Wang Changyuan and took the divine voice-transmitting stone and the interspatial ring. Wang Changyuan stared at Qin Feiyang and said gloomily, "A warrior prefers death to humiliation. Qin Feiyang, no matter what you want to do, I will not let you down. No matter what you do, I will not let you get what you want." That may not be true. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and waved his hand to send Wang Changyuan to the soul-sealing valley. Xingda looked at Wang Changyuan, who suddenly appeared with a trace of surprise on his face. At the same time, Wang Changyuan looked at Xingda and frowned. But when he saw the soul-sealing valley below, his face turned green. When Qin Feiyang and the Blood Hall Master were communicating, he was at the side, so he knew where this place was. Xingda, don't torture him. Let him quietly watch Pei Wanli and the others bathe below. Qin Feiyang's voice sounded in Xingda's mind. Yes. Boss Xing secretly acknowledged, and then ignored Wang Changyuan. He thought to himself that this young master was indeed powerful. Even Wang Changyuan had been captured. Seeing that Boss Xing was ignoring him, Wang Changyuan felt even more uneasy. How was Boss Xing going to deal with him? Outside, Qin Feiyang put away Wang Changyuan's Cosmos Ring and the Divine Voice Transmitting Stone. He turned to look at the Alliance Master and the two Divine Pythons. The Alliance Master and the two Great Pythons were also sizing up Qin Feiyang. Although this was the first time they had met, and although Qin Feiyang's cultivation was only at the initial stage of the Sovereign Realm, when they looked at each other face to face, he actually felt a sense of oppression coming from him. Whoosh! Suddenly, the two pythons teleported and surrounded Qin Feiyang from the front and back. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He looked at the two beasts suspiciously. The two beasts remained silent, their eyes filled with killing intent. You are the Vice Alliance Master's disciple? The Alliance head asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Vice Alliance Master sent you to the Western continent? The Alliance head asked again. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded again. This old man really doesn't give up. The two Great Pythons raised their eyebrows. Doesn't give up? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. The male fire python sneered. Didn't the Vice Alliance Master send you to the Western continent to get rid of us? Get rid of you? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He shook his head and said, You really have misunderstood. Master sent me to the Western continent to rescue you. Rescue us? The Alliance head and the two Great Pythons were taken aback. Qin Feiyang frowned and asked, Didn't the Blood Hall tell you about the current situation in the Eastern continent? No. We have been imprisoned. Although the Blood Hall has been polite to us, they have never told us about the situation outside. We only know that a disciple of the Vice Alliance Master has come to the Western continent. The Alliance head shook his head. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, Have you seen the people imprisoned next to you? We know of their existence, but we have never seen them face to face. The Alliance head said. Qin Feiyang came to a realization and said, Looks like you all have been living days cut off from the world these few years. Don't talk nonsense. Just now, you said that the Vice Alliance Master sent you to save us. What is going on? The two pythons urged. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Master did do a lot of wrong things in the past, but now he has repented and turned over a new leaf. Repented and turned over a new leaf? The Alliance head and the two pythons were stunned. That's right. Master knows that he has wronged you, so he asked me to save you. Qin Feiyang nodded. You must be fooling us. He is such an ambitious person. How can he turn over a new leaf? The two pythons didn't believe it. The human heart is made of flesh. As long as you persuade him with reason, move him with emotion and forgive him, he will be moved by you. Of course. I know that no matter what I say, you won't believe me. I have a very persuasive witness here. Let him tell you personally. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, the fire dragon appeared with a thought. Kuo Long was in the midst of comprehending the power of laws. Seeing that he was suddenly pulled out by Qin Feiyang, he couldn't help but crawl to his feet in anger. He said, Brother Qin, although the Black Tortoise world is your territory, can you respect me a little and inform me in advance if there's anything you need? See for yourself. Qin Feiyang pointed at the Alliance head and the two pythons. The fire dragon was slightly stunned. He looked at the two pythons and his expression froze. When he looked at the Alliance head, his expression froze again. Could it be that he was seeing things? It rubbed its eyes hard and looked at them again. Suddenly, it was ecstatic and roared, Dad, Mom, you're back. The two fire pythons looked at the fire dragon in shock. What was wrong with this little guy? Why did he blindly recognize his parents? However, Why did this aura feel a little familiar? Hey, 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 it's me, your child. Can't you recognize me? The fire dragon saw this and shouted unhappily. What? You are our child. The two pythons looked at each other. The alliance had also looked at the fire dragon with a puzzled expression. Although the fire dragon had transformed into a divine dragon, his aura was still somewhat similar to before. Damn, what's wrong with you? How many years has it been? You can't even recognize your own child. If I knew this, I wouldn't have let Qin Feiyang save you. The fire dragon looked unhappy. It's really you? The two pythons looked at the fire dragon. Nonsense. Who else can it be? The fire dragon was speechless. What kind of parents were they? They even doubted their own son standing in front of them. Besides, although his appearance had changed greatly, he still had his previous aura. They could tell from his aura. No. When did you transform into a divine dragon? In fact, the two pythons already believed it, but the fire dragon's current appearance made it difficult for them to accept it. A few years ago. This is all thanks to Brother Qin. Huolong stood up like a human and put his arm around Qin Feiyang's shoulder. He said, if it wasn't for Brother Qin and Little Madman's help, I would have lost my life under the heavenly tribulation. The two pythons looked at Qin Feiyang with a trace of suspicion in their eyes. At the same time, there was also a trace of gratitude. Old man, what are you still standing there for? Brother Qin is your savior. Hurry up and thank him. Don't think that just because you are the alliance head of the Itinerant Cultivator Alliance, saving you is natural. If you really do that, even if Brother Qin agrees, I won't. The fire dragon looked at the alliance head and shouted. The corner of the alliance head's mouth twitched and he said speechlessly, I can conclude that you are that little bastard. You are the bastard. Your whole family are bastards. The fire dragon cursed. Cough, cough. The fire python couple coughed and scolded. Brat, you have already transformed into a divine dragon, and you are still so rude. Do you believe that I will beat you up? Can you bear to beat me up? The fire dragon chuckled. Looking at the fire dragon's fearless attitude, the fire python couple smiled bitterly. Then they looked at Qin Feiyang and said apologetically, Sorry, I misunderstood you just now. It's okay. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The alliance head walked to Qin Feiyang and said, Then tell me, what happened during this period of time? You tell me. Qin Feiyang looked at the fire dragon and laughed. The fire dragon looked at Qin Feiyang, then looked at the alliance head and the fire python couple, and immediately beamed with joy. You guys don't know how awesome this little brother of mine is, then. The fire dragon told them everything that happened at the exchange conference and White Crane Island. After hearing this, the alliance head and the fire python couple were all stunned. Killing the great deacon, destroying the sovereign divine weapon, forcing Old High to self-destruct. Every single one of these matters could be said to be universally shocking. Even experts of their level could not do it, but now it had happened to such a little guy? If it wasn't for the fire dragon saying it himself, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. After the fire dragon finished speaking, Qin Feiyang added, And the Dark Guard commander a few days ago, he also died in our hands. What? The alliance head and the fire python couple's eyes trembled. A great deacon and a Dark Guard commander, both of whom were the highest level figures in the Blood Hall, had died in the hands of this kid. Terrifying, truly terrifying. No wonder when he saw this kid come to the Western continent, the Blood Hall master acted as if he was facing a great enemy. He even put down his face and begged him to help set up a protective barrier in the Nine Dragon Mountain range. That's about the situation. I also have a presumptuous request. Qin Feiyang looked at the alliance head and the fire python couple and said. The alliance head thought for a moment, then asked, It's for your master, right? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. The alliance head pondered for a moment, then smiled and said, Since he has repented, there's no need to be calculative. Besides, you seem to have come to save us now, which can be considered as making up for the mistakes your master has made. Thank you. Qin Feiyang smiled gratefully. But then again, we're still a little unconvinced. Let's not talk about the hall master of the Mortal Palace. He has always been a good person. But old Yi, that bastard, actually found a disciple like you. It's really unreasonable. The fire python couple said indignantly. Suddenly, they rolled their eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang, then said with a smile, Qin Feiyang, why don't you change your master and become the Alliance head's personal disciple? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Brother Qin, that's a good idea. The Alliance head is much better than Old Yi in both strength and status. The fire dragon also egged him on. The Alliance head was stunned at first, and then he began to look forward to it. Who wouldn't be tempted by such an outstanding young man? Chapter 33-23. Change my master's sect? Qin Feiyang looked at the fire dragon and the Shenmeng couple in shock. Wasn't this nonsense? They were all members of the Itinerant Cultivator Alliance. Was there a need to do this? Besides, if he really changed his master's sect, how was he going to face the Deputy Alliance Master in the future? Even if the Deputy Alliance Master didn't say anything, others would definitely criticize him behind his back. He wouldn't do such a thing. Moreover, the Deputy Alliance Master changed his mind because of him, and even took the initiative to ask to use the slave seal to control him. He was sincere, so he couldn't let him down. With the Alliance Master's eyesight, he was able to tell what Qin Feiyang was thinking with a single glance. Thus he looked to the Divine Python couple and said with a smile, Don't mess around. Old Ye's disciple is also equivalent to our disciple. There is no difference. That may be the case, but I'm afraid that Old Yi will mislead others. The Shenmeng couple said. What do you mean mislead others? Don't talk nonsense. Although Old Ye's character was indeed not good in the past, his strength is not weaker than ours. Besides, now that he has turned over a new leaf, there's no need to keep harping on him. The Alliance Master smiled. Then he has to really turn over a new leaf. There's a good saying that you can't judge a book by its cover. Who knows what he's thinking? The Shenmeng couple snorted coldly. Dad, Mom, I can testify to this. He has indeed turned over a new leaf. The fire dragon said. The Shenmeng couple looked at him suspiciously. The fire dragon said, Brother Qin has mastered a kind of control mystic technique. And back then, Old Yi actually took the initiative to ask Brother Qin to control him. Isn't this enough to prove it? What? The Shenmeng couple was shocked that there was such a thing. They looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, Did you control him? Since Master insists, I can only agree. Qin Feiyang smiled. The Shenmeng couple and the Alliance Master looked at each other. Didn't that mean that the life of the Vice Alliance Master was now in the hands of Qin Feiyang? Although the deputy leader was in the wrong, he was still a member of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, and was in charge of all the important matters of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. If Qin Feiyang had any evil intentions, the consequences would be unimaginable. What are you guys thinking? Let me tell you, you can suspect anyone but Brother Qin. All these years, he has been extremely benevolent to our Rogue Cultivator Alliance. It can even be said that if he didn't deal with the Devil Hall, our Independent Cultivator Alliance would have already disappeared from the Eastern continent. The Fire Dragon looked at the Alliance Master and the Shenmeng couple with a dark expression. Cough cough. Alliance Master and Shenmeng coughed dryly and glared at Fire Dragon. What nonsense are you talking about? How could we have any doubts? TSK, do you think I don't understand you? Even I know what you're going to do when you stick your butts out. The Fire Dragon's eyes were filled with disdain. The corners of the Alliance Master and the Shenmeng couple's mouths twitched. Qin Feiyang looked at the Fire Dragon and laughed. They don't understand the situation, so it's normal for them to suspect my character. Brother, you're magnanimous. The Fire Dragon gave a thumbs up, then looked at the Alliance Master and the couple, and said disdainfully, Are you guys ashamed? To actually suspect your own savior, don't think that I can't afford to lose face, let alone knowing me. The Alliance Master and the Shenmeng couple became more and more embarrassed, and they were also extremely angry in their hearts. This little bastard, couldn't he leave them some face? Qin Feiyang also admired the Fire Dragon's mouth. Even his own biological parents were mercilessly criticized and criticized. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang looked at the Alliance Master and said, This disciple has a question. What question? The Alliance Master asked with a smile. Did you create the 9 Dragon Mountain Ranges barrier? Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. The Alliance Master nodded. Why are you helping them? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Of course I can't help them willingly. The Alliance Master smiled, then looked at the Shenmeng couple and said, but the Blood Hall used their lives to threaten me, so I had to do this. So that's the case. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. It seemed that this person was also a person who valued friendship and righteousness. Then he said, then what's next? Are you guys going back to the Eastern continent or? What about you? The Alliance Master asked. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, and then a cold light flashed in his eyes, and said, the trap I set up is not over yet. What do you want to do? The Alliance Master asked. 3 days later, I will go to the Blood Hall to make a deal. The Blood Hall wants to take this opportunity to get rid of me, but at the same time, I am also waiting for this opportunity to get rid of them. In this battle, let's see who's stronger. Qin Feiyang's eyes surged with killing intent. Deal. The Alliance Master and the Shenmeng couple looked at him suspiciously. Fire Dragon said with a sneaky smile. You guys don't know, but now the families of the Blood Hall's big shots are in Brother Qin's hands. What? The Alliance Master and the Shenmeng couple were stunned, somewhat in disbelief. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile and said, originally these people were used to exchange for you guys, but now, it seems that there is no need. Then what are you going to do with them? The Alliance Master asked. This little guy's ability was really beyond imagination. He actually kidnapped the families of the Blood Hall's big shots. Wasn't this equivalent to grabbing their throats and making them hesitate? Although there is no need to exchange for them, they are still valuable. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. So 3 days later, you are going to go to war with the Blood Hall? The Alliance Master asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Go to war. The Alliance Master pondered. What's there to think about? Over the years they have been tormenting us a lot. This time, it's time to settle the score with them. The Shenmeng couple sneered. The Alliance Master glanced at them and thought for a while, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile. How about this? I will go back to the Eastern continent first. I have been away for so many years, I don't know if there are any changes now. This is your freedom. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. But don't worry, 3 days later, I will bring people to support you. The Alliance Master smiled. Thank you. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and thanked him. He was waiting for the Alliance Master to say this. With the help of the Alliance Master, the odds of winning were undoubtedly higher. Moreover, the Rogue Cultivator Alliance was not enough. He had to contact the Demon Palace. In short, this time, if possible, he wanted to completely destroy the Blood Hall. As the Alliance Master waved his hand, a space-time passage appeared immediately. Let's go. Seeing that the Fire Dragon was still standing beside Qin Feiyang, the Shenmeng couple urged. The Fire Dragon waved his claws and said, you guys go back, I will follow Brother Qin. Huh. The Shenmeng couple was stunned. The Alliance Master glanced at the Fire Dragon and Qin Feiyang, then looked at the Shenmeng couple and said with a smile. The child has grown up and has his own judgment. As an adult, don't interfere, let's go. When the Shenmeng couple heard this, they glared fiercely at the Fire Dragon. Stinking brat, his wings had hardened, and he didn't even want his own parents anymore. Besides, after not seeing each other for so many years, shouldn't they get together? Talk. But this kid didn't have that intention at all. He even had an indifferent attitude. How could he give birth to such a white-eyed wolf? After the Alliance Master and the Fire Dragon couple left, Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. He looked at the Fire Dragon and said, you should go back with them. Since he was young, he had spent less time with his parents, so he understood how the Shenmeng couple felt. It wasn't easy for them to escape. They originally wanted to have a good gathering with their child, but in the end, the child was unwilling to leave with an outsider. As parents, they would definitely be very disappointed. It doesn't matter. Anyway, when they were in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, we were rarely together. The Fire Dragon waved his hand indifferently. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. He glanced at the sea below and brought the Fire Dragon to the sky above the Devil's Land. Old Qin, how did you break the stone room outside just now? The madman, the white-eyed wolf, and a group of secret guards immediately surrounded him. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. At that time, Qin Feiyang sent them to the Black Tortoise world and stayed outside alone. They thought that Qin Feiyang was seeking his own death, but they didn't expect that not long after, he brought the Alliance Master and the Shen Meng couple to the Black Tortoise world. Borrowing force, Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and briefly explained the situation. After listening, the madman and the white-eyed wolf revealed a look of realization. So that's the case. But the group of secret guards all revealed a look of admiration. The situation at that time could be said to be extremely urgent. Under such circumstances, the young master could actually come up with such a wonderful idea? This kind of calm mentality was really scary. This time they were completely convinced. It was not unreasonable for the Blood Hall to repeatedly suffer in the hands of the young master. What about the Alliance Master and the others now? The white-eyed wolf was suspicious. Back to the Eastern continent. Qin Feiyang smiled. They went back just like that? The white-eyed wolf frowned. 3 days later, they will come to support us. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. That's more like it. The white-eyed wolf nodded, then looked at the fire dragon and said unhappily, "Then why are you still following us? Don't tell this big brother that you want to rely on us in the future." "So what if I rely on you? If you have the ability, kick me out." The fire dragon looked at him smugly. "Ha! You still dare to be arrogant in front of this big brother?" The white-eyed wolf suddenly rubbed his hands with evil intentions. The fire dragon's pupils shrank, and he hurriedly turned around and ran. What a joke in the Black Tortoise world. Who could beat this wolf cub? When he thought of the 2 profound skills that it had mastered, he could not help but feel his scalp go numb. Running? The white-eyed wolf smiled disdainfully, activated instant time, and caught up with the fire dragon in an instant. With a slap of his claws, a big bump appeared on the fire dragon's head. "Big brother, let's talk nicely. Be gentle." The fire dragon looked at the white-eyed wolf with tears in his eyes. "It's no use calling me big brother." The white-eyed wolf snorted. "Then what do you want?" The fire dragon felt wronged. The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes and said indifferently, "From now on, you will be this big brother's little follower." "Little follower? Are you kidding me? Do you believe that I won't ask my parents to come and destroy you?" The fire dragon said angrily. "Then I will destroy you first." The white-eyed wolf waved his claws with a fierce look. "No, no, no. Isn't it just a little follower? It is my honor." The fire dragon hurriedly waved his claws and smiled flatteringly. "That's more like it. I will give you a mission. Later, go and get the white jade Qilin, black dragon, fire Luan. In short, call all the beasts and divine beasts in the devil's land to this big brother. This big brother wants to teach them a good lesson about who is the boss here." The white-eyed wolf said proudly. "Okay." The fire dragon nodded and bowed. He really played the role of a little follower to the fullest. Chapter 33-24. The group of dark guards looked at the white-eyed wolf with envy in their eyes. They didn't know before, but now they knew that the white-eyed wolf had plundered the dark guard commander and the great deacon's law force. This kind of supernatural power was both scary and enviable. However, what made them envious the most was that the white-eyed wolf had Qin Feiyang and the madman as his brothers. Otherwise, even if he had this kind of supernatural power, he wouldn't be able to find such good prey. "White-eyed wolf, don't be in a hurry to show off. Come with me to the Soul-Sealing Valley." After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he waved his hand and brought the madman, the white-eyed wolf, a group of dark guards, and the 2 dark guards whose Sea of Qi had been destroyed, to the Soul-Sealing Valley. As for the fire dragon, he didn't bring him along. Soul-Sealing Valley. Xingda stood in the sky expressionlessly. Below, Pei Wanli and the others had stopped struggling, and were lying in the cesspool like dead dogs. Wang Changyuan had been standing beside Xingda. Every time he lowered his head and saw the fate of Pei Wanli and the others, he couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. Swish! Qin Feiyang and the others appeared. Looking at the Soul-Sealing Valley below, the group of dark guards couldn't help but turn pale. "Young master." Xingde immediately bowed. Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, "Let me tell you a piece of good news. The Alliance leader and the Shenmeng couple have been rescued. Really? Xingde was surprised. Qin Feiyang nodded. That's great. As long as they are fine, the Deputy Alliance leader can rest assured. Xingde was ecstatic and then asked, then where are they now? They went back to the Eastern continent. Qin Feiyang smiled. Back to the Eastern continent? When Xingde heard this, the joy on his face disappeared and he frowned. Are you worried that they will settle the score with Master? Qin Feiyang asked. Xingde didn't deny it. Don't worry, I have already explained it to them. They also said that they won't pursue it. Qin Feiyang smiled. Xingde was stunned. He raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. He bowed and said, Thank you, young lord. Although Qin Feiyang was the Vice Alliance leader's disciple, the Vice Alliance leader had never done anything for Qin Feiyang. Instead, it was Qin Feiyang who had been running around tirelessly for the Vice Alliance leader. Sometimes, even he felt that the Vice Alliance leader was too lucky to have found such an outstanding disciple. We're all on the same side. Why are you thanking me? Qin Feiyang glared at him with dissatisfaction. Xingde scratched his head and laughed dryly as he looked at Qin Feiyang, appearing charmingly naive. It was rare to see such an expression on Boss Xing's face. Qin Feiyang smiled and turned to look at Wang Changyuan. Wang Changyuan's pupils shrank and his face was filled with fear. The white-eyed wolf looked at him mockingly and said, Weren't you quite arrogant when you were outside? Why are you behaving like a kitten now? Wang Changyuan felt bitter in his heart. How could he be arrogant in this soul-sealing valley? If he dared to be arrogant, it would be the fate of Pei Wanli and the others. He would rather die than go down to the bathtub. Qin Feiyang smiled and asked, White-eyed wolf, what do you think? Do you want to rob him of his lightning law? Rob me of my lightning law. Wang Changyuan's gaze trembled slightly as he looked at the white-eyed wolf in shock. The white-eyed wolf looked at Wang Changyuan and felt really conflicted. If he could rob this person of his lightning law, he would be able to break through to the initial imperishable realm and grasp the three supreme profound meanings. However, although the lightning law was very powerful, it was still not an ultimate law. If he could fuse with the power of laws infinitely, he would definitely choose to rob without hesitation. However, the problem was that he only had 6 chances to fuse with it. Every time he used it, he would have 1 less chance. Brother Wolf, don't be so greedy. It's so great to get a supreme profound for free. We want it even in our dreams. So there's no need to find an ultimate law for all of them. Frenzy advised. The group of dark guards also nodded in agreement. You can't wait for me to rob him of his lightning law, right? Otherwise, when I find 6 ultimate laws, you won't be my opponent. The white-eyed wolf glared at Frenzy. Who do you think I am? Although I am indeed a little envious, do you think I will be jealous of you? Frenzy suddenly looked unhappy. Be careful. The ingrate looked at Wang Changyuan in disdain. After sizing him up for a moment, he shook his head and said, Forget it. I'll keep it for now. When I really can't find any other supreme laws of nature in the future, I'll plunder his thunder laws of nature. What do you mean? Are you keeping me as a lab rat? Wang Changyuan was stunned. That's right. You are a lab rat. When I'm in a bad mood, I will use you as an example. So if you want to live, you have to perform well. The white-eyed wolf smirked. Wang Changyuan's face suddenly turned pale as he roared. You guys should just kill me and give me a quick death. You still want a quick death? Let me tell you, if you fall into our hands, you don't even have the right to choose death. I will leave first. You guys chat. After saying that, the white-eyed wolf activated momentary time and instantly disappeared without a trace. A greedy snake swallows an elephant. Frenzy snorted coldly. I am quite supportive of it. Since there is such an opportunity, we naturally have to choose the best. Qin Feiyang smiled. Yes, I also want to let it fuse with all of its ultimate laws. But the key is, where are we going to find so many ultimate laws for it? It has already mastered the time law and death law. As for the remaining giants of Blood Hall, Old High and Blood Hall Master, they have mastered the space-time law and the time law respectively. It already has the time law and can't fuse with it anymore. In other words, only Old High's space-time law is useful to it now. At that time, even if we help it fuse with old high space-time law, it will still lack 3 ultimate laws. Where are we going to find these 3? It's impossible to find Demon Hallmaster and plunder her cause and effect law. As for Holy Temple and Deity's Templar, for now, they have no enmity with us. It's not good to make a move on them. Madman rubbed his forehead. In fact, this wasn't the main point. The main point was that those who possess the ultimate laws are basically giants. If you want to plunder their power, you will inevitably provoke a major force. In other words, every time you plunder an ultimate law, you will face a difficult battle. Facing Blood Hall already made you feel tired. If you provoke other forces, isn't that just asking for trouble? Let's take it slow. Besides Holy Temple, Deity's Templar, and Demon Hall, there might be others. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. Others? Madman was taken aback. Have you never thought about where Ice Dragon's lair is? Qin Feiyang said. Ice Dragon, Madman muttered. Sky Cloud Realm. Perhaps it isn't as simple as everyone thinks. Qin Feiyang smiled meaningfully. He looked at the 2 secret guards whose Sea of Qi had been destroyed and said with a smile, "Come here." Hearing this, the 2 hurriedly ran to Qin Feiyang. Want to go down and play? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. The 2 looked at Soul Ceiling Valley and shook their heads. Only ghosts would want to go down and play. No. Even ghosts would feel their scalp tingle when they see this place. Qin Feiyang said, "Your cultivation isn't weak. I will give you a chance to submit to me and work for me." Hearing this, the 2 shadow guards couldn't help but look at Wang Changyuan. Don't look at him and don't worry about his threats. Here, other than me, no one can threaten you. Submit to me and I will give you good fortune. As for what good fortune, I won't reveal it for the time being, but it will definitely affect your life. As for not submitting, I believe I don't need to say it. You should know the consequences. I will give you 3 breaths of time. Make your choice. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. The 2 looked at each other. A good fortune that could affect their life? Was there such a thing in the world? One must know that they were all Great Perfection Dominator Realm, and had basically reached the peak of the Sky Cloud Realm. Unless they were given the strongest law, Supreme Profound, or Ultimate Profound, they would not be able to progress at all. However, things like law and profound divine ability were not things that others could give them. But looking at Qin Feiyang's attitude and tone, it didn't seem like he was lying to them. Wait. Suddenly, they looked at the middle-aged man and the other shadow guards. Could it be that these people joined Qin Feiyang because of this mysterious good fortune? 3 breaths of time. Qin Feiyang said, "We submit." The 2 came back to their senses and looked at each other again. At the same time they knelt in front of Qin Feiyang and bowed. "Greetings, young master." "You." Wang Changyuan looked at the 2 of them angrily. "Wang Changyuan, don't stare at them. Although we are the Blood Hall's shadow guards, we also have the right to choose. That's right, we are not dogs but humans. Think about it. What did the big shots treat us all these years in the Blood Hall? They completely treated us as obedient dogs. But now it's different. After meeting the young master, we finally found our dignity as humans. Moreover, the young master not only gave us dignity, but also gave us hope to live and a goal to strive for." The middle-aged man and the other shadow guards looked at Wang Changyuan coldly. "You have all been brainwashed by him. With his little strength, what hope can he give you? What goal can he give you?" Wang Changyuan looked at the group of people in disbelief. He originally thought that these people were forced to submit, but he didn't expect that they were all willing. Brainwashed? Are you stupid? We are Great Perfection Dominators. How can we be brainwashed by others? The group of shadow guards despised. Looking at the attitude of the group of shadow guards, the 2 shadow guards kneeling in front of Qin Feiyang became more and more certain that their choice was definitely not wrong. "Get up." Qin Feiyang smiled. Hearing this, the 2 stood up. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and 2 slavery seals appeared. He smiled and said, "It's impossible for me to trust you now, so don't resist." After saying this, the 2 slavery seals flew toward the top of the 2's heads. Not to mention whether they had any thoughts of resisting. The middle-aged man and the others were glaring at them from the side. They didn't dare to resist. because anyone could see that these shadow guards had sincerely submitted to Qin Feiyang. If they dared to resist, he would definitely attack them without hesitation. The slavery seals were quickly completed. Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Changyuan and said with a smile, "What about you? Do you choose to submit or die? I won't force you. Think about it carefully. You still have 3 breaths of time." Hearing this, Wang Changyuan immediately struggled in his heart. Chapter 33:25. If he submitted to Qin Feiyang, the blood hall wouldn't let him go. If he didn't submit, Qin Feiyang wouldn't let him go either. Since there was only death left and right, he might as well die. But now, he didn't even have the right to choose death. It was really sad to be in such a sullen position. 3 breaths of time. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Wang Changyuan quivered, raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. "If I submit to you, then Wolf King won't deprive me of the Law of Thunder, right?" "I can't guarantee that, because it depends on your performance." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "In the end, I'll still be kept like a lab rat," Wang Changyuan whispered. "If you submit, you might still be able to get rid of the fate of a lab rat. But if you don't submit, then you'll really be a lab rat. Right. There's something I haven't told you yet. The Dark Guard commander has died in our hands. The white-eyed wolf has fused with his Law of Time." Qin Feiyang chuckled. "What?" Wang Changyuan's eyes trembled. "The Dark Guard commander was already dead? So you should be glad that you have mastered the supreme profound of the Law of Thunder, and not the supreme profound of the strongest law. Otherwise, you would be a corpse now," Qin Feiyang said and shouted. "Give me an answer immediately." Wang Changyuan closed his eyes in pain, and his hands were tightly clenched together. Just as Qin Feiyang's killing intent appeared, his tightly clenched hands slowly loosened, and at the same time he slowly opened his eyes. His expression was powerless and desperate as he lowered his head and said, "I submit." Qin Feiyang smiled. With a wave of his hand, a slave seal appeared and entered Wang Changyuan's head like lightning. After the control was completed, Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile, "Don't look like you're dying. How many people want to follow me? I don't even like them." Wang Changyuan smiled disapprovingly. "You still don't believe me?" Qin Feiyang looked at the dark guards and said, "Take off your clothes." "Ah, all of them." The middle-aged man looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment. "Is there a problem?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The middle-aged man hesitated for a while, then pointed at the people beside him and said, "Young master, it's fine even if we strip naked, but these women." "Woman?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked at the group of people, and saw that some of them were lowering their heads and blushing. These were all women. Sorry. Qin Feiyang patted his head and hurriedly smiled apologetically at those women. How could he forget that there were quite a few women among the dark guards? Asking them to take off their clothes in public, wouldn't that be, cough? In short, it was very awkward. Wang Changyuan and the 2 shadow guards looked at Qin Feiyang, and the others suspiciously. Why did they ask them to take off their clothes? Cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and said, "Take off all the men's clothes." At that moment, the group of men directly took off their clothes. Wang Changyuan and the other 2 were even more puzzled. The middle-aged man said proudly, "Look clearly what's on our chests." Chests? The 3 of them were stunned and immediately looked at the chests of the group of people. Immediately, the 3 of them were surprised. Why did they have a mark on their bodies? "Do you feel that it's very familiar?" the middle-aged man asked. "Is it familiar?" The 3 of them looked at each other and took a closer look. Indeed, it seemed to be somewhat familiar. "Wait a minute. This seems to be," suddenly. Wang Changyuan's eyes trembled. He stared at the potential marks and his face was full of disbelief. "That's right. This is the mark of the Gate of Potential. We have all opened the first 3 levels of the Gate of Potential. This is the good fortune that young master mentioned. How is it? Now tell us, is this the hope of living and the goal to strive for?" The middle-aged man sneered. Gate of Potential. The 3 of them were completely stunned. Although they had only opened the first 3 levels of the Gate of Potential, it was already shocking enough. How did Qin Feiyang do it? The reaction of the three of them was not beyond Qin Feiyang's expectation. Not to mention them, even a big shot like the Hall Master of Blood Hall would have the same reaction when he saw this scene. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang looked at the middle-aged man and the group of people and said with a smile, "When we were fighting outside, your performance was very good. At least you didn't abandon me and run for your lives. Later, go and find Dan Wangkai and open the 4th, 5th, and 6th levels of the Gate of Potential." "Thank you, young master." Hearing this, the group of people's faces were full of joy. Then they went down on one knee and thanked him gratefully. "What? You have a way to open the 4th, 5th, and 6th levels of the Gate of Potential?" Wang Changyuan and the other two stared at Qin Feiyang with their mouths agape. "Young master's ability is beyond your imagination. Not to mention the 6th level of the Gate of Potential. As long as he is willing, he can open all the gates of potential for us in minutes." The middle-aged man sneered. "Open all the gates of potential?" The three of them looked at each other in dismay. Then they became excited. Who didn't want to open the gates of potential? Not to mention opening all the gates of potential. Even if they only opened one gate of potential, there was a huge difference between them and those who didn't. This was especially true for the sovereign realm. This was because the cultivation of the sovereign realm had nothing to do with other things. It was all about comprehending the profundity of the laws. Comprehending the profundity of the laws required one's comprehension ability. The existence of the gate of potential could develop one's comprehension ability to the extreme. Using the simplest example, if one needed 10 minutes to comprehend something, after opening the gate of potential, one would only need 1 minute to comprehend it. This was the difference. They finally understood why the middle-aged man and the others said that they had found hope in Qin Feiyang and a goal to strive for. This was an opportunity for sovereign realm great perfection realm experts like them to be reborn. "Young master, we swear that in the future, we will do our best for you until our last breath." This time, even Wang Changyuan knelt down. Moreover, he knelt down willingly. Even a fool would want to grasp such a good fortune, let alone them. Just do your best. There's no need for you to die. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. He looked at the middle-aged man and said, "Tell them the 3 iron rules." "Yes." The middle-aged man replied respectfully. He looked at Wang Changyuan and the others and said, "Young master has 3 iron rules. You must remember them. First, you are not allowed to kill the innocent. Second, you are not allowed to bully others. Third, you are not allowed to betray your companions. If you dare to violate these 3 iron rules, you will be killed without mercy." "Yes." Wang Changyuan and the others nodded respectfully. Here, you must not have the mentality of being lucky. Whoever dares to violate these 3 iron rules, even if it's the first time, will not be forgiven. Qin Feiyang said. "Understood." The 3 of them nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "Get up. Later, go find Dan Wangkai and open the first 3 gates of potential." "Only the first 3? The 3 of them were stunned. "You guys should be content. When we first came, we only opened the first 3. The middle-aged man snorted. "Yes, yes, yes." The 3 of them nodded and did not dare to have any objections. Being able to open the first 3 temporarily was fine. After all, there was still a chance in the future. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent the group to the Devil's Land. He then looked at Pei Wanli and the others below. 57 Dark Guards and 1 Vice Commander. Our strength can be said to have increased by dozens of times overnight. Madman laughed. "Isn't this because of young master's brilliant methods?" Xingda laughed. "You actually laughed? How rare." Madman looked at Xingda in surprise. "I am also a person with feelings, okay?" Xingda was speechless. "What's so strange about smiling as long as you're human?" Those who can cultivate to the perfection sovereign realm are all people with extraordinary talent. As long as they open the gates of potential, they will be able to comprehend the supreme profound sooner or later. When they comprehend the supreme profound, that will be the time for them to be truly useful. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Xingda. "Don't you have anything you want to ask?" Xingda did not know about this before, but now, he did not seem to be curious at all. Xingda said, "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Don't think about what you shouldn't think about. This is the most basic principle of being a subordinate. When young master wants to say something, he will naturally say it. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. To be honest, this Xingde was really a good person. The more he looked at him, the more satisfied he was. No wonder master trusted him so much. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang decided not to hide it anymore. He smiled and said, "Actually, helping them open the gates of potential is not my own ability. I don't have this ability at all. It is because of some pills that can open the gates of potential." Pills. Xingde was stunned and said in surprise, "Could it be the legendary first volume of the pill scripture?" Qin Feiyang said, "I don't know if it is the first volume of the pill scripture, but these pills can indeed open the gates of potential." Xingde was full of surprise. "Xingde, this pill that can open the gates of potential is our biggest secret. Even the two old men don't know about it, but now we are telling you. Don't let us down," Madman said meaningfully. The two old men were naturally referring to the Vice Alliance leader and the Hall of Famers. Xingde's heart trembled. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang and Madman and said with a serious expression, "Don't worry, I will definitely keep this a secret." Madman laughed. He was a smart person. Qin Feiyang glanced at Xingde and said with a smile, "You must be feeling bad about hiding it from master." Xingde nodded. Indeed. Although he was now under orders to protect Qin Feiyang, he was still the Vice Alliance leader's man. He would definitely feel guilty and uneasy about hiding it from the Vice Alliance leader. "I will find a chance to tell master and the others in the future. As for Yi Tian," Qin Feiyang turned to look at Madman and asked, "Senior brother, do you think we should also help him open the gates of potential?" "Is there a need to ask?" "Of course," Madman said without hesitation. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked suspiciously, "What happened when the two of you went to spar? Why did your relationship suddenly become so good?" "It's nothing. We just had a fair fight. You know my personality. I don't like ordinary people at all. However, anyone that I like is definitely someone worth befriending. For example, you." Madman chuckled. "All right. Let's go find Yi Tian now. Also, Xingde, when you are free, go find Dan Wangkai and ask him to help you open all the gates of potential." Qin Feiyang smiled and left with Madman. Open all the gates of potential. Xingde was stunned. He felt as if a pie had fallen from the sky. When he came back to his senses, he bowed deeply to the Devil's Land and thanked the young master. Wang Changyuan and the others opened the gates of potential one by one, but he opened them all at once. From this it could be seen, Qin Feiyang's trust in him far exceeded Wang Changyuan and the others. He had never thought that one day he would be able to open the gates of potential. This kindness, this trust, he would remember it in his heart for the rest of his life. At the same time, he was also happy for Yi Tian. Yi Tian's talent was already 1 in a million. Now that he had unlocked the door to his potential and was reborn, his future could be said to be broad. Such a Yi Tian could be called the true future star of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Requesting monthly votes, recommendation votes. You're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.